had guys on from military to entrepreneurs, strength conditioning coaches, farmers, just a wild array. And yeah, you are my first dragster on the show. I'm honored to have you on.
Well, I am certainly glad to be here. I mean, like I say, knowing you since you were born, your folks and me and Donna have known each other our whole lives. You know, it's pretty cool. You've done a lot of cool stuff. Like I say, I mean, you do a lot of hunting, and you're a farmer.
Yeah.
And Lord knows we can't operate this country without farmers, and it's very, very much appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta tell this right quick too.
Okay.
So your family ran a parts store for generations, and
man,
guess
yeah.
what, folks? A Parts Plus parts store.
Yep.
Right up the road here. So, yes, Parts Plus store. I can't tell you how many times I went in and out of there as a kid. Bought many parts from there, working on cars, but your family is always farmed and sold parts and on and on and on.
Yeah, I kind of, that's the one thing we miss because we do farm full time now, and we miss the store because we got to see everybody.
Right.
And that's what Dad and I both talked about. We don't, when we're in the field, we obviously don't see anybody anymore. And we used to kind of have our old crowd, which as time has gone, a lot of our old faithful people that came, a lot of them have passed away now, and because Dad's been out of it for years, but man, it was at least 50 years that they ran the store.
I believe that. I 100% believe that. I know I spent, like I say, many trips in and out of there and worked on cars in the back. And, it was definitely a family tradition for a long time. But, I mean, things change. It's no different than my parents, ran the grocery store for well over 50 years. And, all the big shops come in and things change, but I think without a doubt, in my mind, you ended up doing what you needed to do, and you're here farming and on and on. I can't imagine what that's like. So when you called me, you said, "Hey, can we do the podcast this week?" I'm like, "Absolutely," and you said it's going to be a good week for you because of the rain.
Yep.
So. We go to the racetrack and we worry about rain for a day or two, or maybe we have to come back the following weekend. But for you, it's your livelihood. I mean, rain can put you out of business, or it makes you.
Yeah. Well, right now, it's actually raining right now.
Yep.
And we are not done with corn. We got corn left to plant, but like I told you, I would rather battle a wet season than be just begging for rain. Because you can mud in a crop, but a crop it ain't going to grow without some water. So, we want that for sure. But, man, I don't know. It is in your blood. Cause when I was a kid, I wanted no part of farming. But when I was a teenager and I saw my buddy Steven, he commented on there earlier and said, "Hey, Logs, I saw you, Steve." But he probably remembers, man. The last thing I wanted to do was be a farmer. By the time I graduated high school, I was like, I am not going to be a farmer. I don't know what I want to be, but it ain't a farmer. And so I left it and actually became a machinist. And did that for a couple years, and all I wanted to do was get back to being a farmer. And so, yeah, I love it. But I've had that desire to do something else too. And so that's kind of what led me ultimately to start this podcast.
So, how many acres are y'all farming now?
We work, man, Dad has his operation, and this will actually be I'd have to 7th or 8th year now having my own operation, and we kind of work together. Together, we're working around 4,000 acres.
That's a lot of dirt.
It is a lot of dirt, yeah.
So, I mean, what all is it corn, soybeans, a mixture of all of it? Kind of what is the primary thing?
Corn and soybeans that's our main. We'll do wheat. We haven't done wheat in the last probably 2 years. Mm-hmm. The prices had been really low, and they're like skyrocketing right now. Prices are, I have never seen the prices the way they are right now.
So when is that determination made? Like in the wintertime, do y'all look at the prices and like, okay, this year we're going to plant whatever?
Yeah, you do. One thing that we try to rotate if I have beans, I try to do beans about 2 years in a row on a farm, and then I rotate to corn, and then it just kind of, it keeps you can hear some good thunder on there.
It is.
But it'll kind of, it helps build the soil up as you keep rotating it, because you can kind of mine the ground if you just keep doing like beans. And so we look at that. We've got farms, and it's like, we know we've had beans on several times, and a lot of times the prices will play a big part in that. We're pretty flexible throughout the year, going into the spring. Like, man, if prices were to jump suddenly on beans, we might shift and do a hard focus to beans. So the prices pretty much dictate the route we go.
So I'm way older than you, but when I was a kid, and y'all farm a lot of ground, all around where I'm at. But when I grew up, everything here, especially in the river bottom, which is going right by my house, was cotton.
Yeah,
it's gone now. Why is that?
Well, that's what I figured you were going to say. Cotton. Cotton, and and there might be some cotton guys listening, but I don't want any part of cotton.
Really?
Yeah, it's you, like corn, for instance, man. You plant corn and you might spray a burn down, and then you plant corn, it comes up, and then you spray it again, and you're pretty much done with corn. Cotton, you'll spray cotton 10 or 12 times. Like, you have to keep going and spraying it. They're spraying picks on it to keep it from getting real big. They spray for bugs. And I actually like to enjoy myself. So, but you saw a push away from cotton because really the price fell out, and cotton, it's got a really big overhead. So, beans or corn, you can lose money in, but cotton can break you. I mean, so that's why you see it, and you've seen probably somewhat of a resurgence of cotton.
I know we see it a lot when we, head out west. See a lot of cotton, in Texas and out towards California. You'll see massive cotton out there. But, I guess maybe the weather's more suited to it.
It may. I
don't know.
Cotton's actually kind of a desert plant, so it doesn't like really wet ground. From what I've heard, I've never grown it, but I leave that to them. Corn is my favorite. I like corn. Corn will wear you out during harvest because it'll be 20 truckloads on a farm versus beans might be 4.
Right.
So it's a ton of hauling, but I don't know. Corn is. I just like corn. That's my favorite.
Well, I can't argue with that. So I feel like I'm like running over your show.
No,
so
man, you're good.
I know you had questions for me, and I told everybody that's what we were doing tonight. So I'll be quiet, but I did want to know that.
Well, there you go, man. And like I say, I love talking about it. But
I do got one other thing.
Okay.
And I don't want to bring up. I guess it's not. Well, it was controversial at the time. So you shot a deer that really caused a big stir, and I think it's this picture right here. I don't know if y'all can. Yeah, y'all can kind of see it. It's pictured right here. I'm not a hunter at all. I can't be still and can't be quiet, so I don't hunt. But huge deer. But why was it so controversial? Like, it blew up all over the internet.
Yeah, it.
So what was the deer, first of all?
He was a crypt orchid.
A what?
Crypt orchid is what a crypt orchid. It's CRYPTORCHID.
I still don't know what that is. But.
He basically his manhood parts didn't drop. They either they either never developed, they didn't drop, or they got hurt in somewhere, and he did not produce testosterone. And so, like, if people can see the sheds on the table or anything, I mean, I got deer antlers everywhere. Deer typically, at the end of the year, their antlers fall off and they grow a new set. He never shed his antlers. They grew all year long. And in the whole time span that I hunted him for 3 years. He never shed his antlers. And so they're just growing. The bases of them they were as big as Coke cans. Like a normal antler, is like, I don't know, what, an inch or two around. His were like 7 inches around. So, I mean, he just gets monstrous. And he had a ton of heat on him because a bunch of people had seen this deer. You know, he was going up behind Walmart. Like, he was going up there in the city, and people were seeing him at Walmart. And so, man, I had been after him religiously, and I actually missed him the previous year and pretty much thought, you know, that's a once-in-a-lifetime deer. I burned that shot.
Right.
But, man, just... it was actually a really crappy rainy day. I kind of pride myself in hunting when it kind of sucks outside, and I wasn't even thinking about going really. And I told my wife, said, I don't think I'm going to go. It's raining. And then I couldn't not go. And so I went, and yeah, it's raining. I think I texted her and I said, I don't even know why I'm out here. I'm the only dummy moving around in this rain. Like, I was sitting up in my stand, and it wasn't 20 minutes later he came up over a ridge, and I got him.
But why was it so controversial? I mean, like, I don't even follow hunting, and I couldn't help but seeing it on Facebook and what have you.
A lot of people, my honest opinion is that people are too disconnected. That's really what it is. Because they saw this deer, and I saw some of the comments, because it went crazy.
It did.
I mean, I had people from different states, like, messaging me like, man, you're on the news. And I mean, it really blew up. And for the most part, everybody was really supportive, but I saw like some PETA pages shared this thing on there, and oh gosh, the things people were saying. Like, I mean, people wished I was dead. Like, whenever this deer came out, I got some awful messages. But man, it was, a lot of the comments was like, a deer like that deserved to die of old age. And when I read that, it makes me kind of realize the disconnect from wildlife that we really have.
Well, me knowing you, I'm quite sure that it got mounted, but the rest of that deer got ate.
Yes, and that was one of the, when I was getting a lot of heat, I put up a video on YouTube, and it kind of gained some traction because I had just gotten the meat back, and I show the meat in the freezer, and I'm like, I'm not just shooting it for the trophy. We will eat it. Like, I love the meat.
I know y'all.
I could eat meat every meal. Like, I love meat. And so, man, it just, people think that if an animal gets shot, they think that's cruel. They don't think about the fact that coyotes will tear a deer up. I mean, disease, all these things. Like, deer don't just typically frolic and die a happy old age.
Right.
I mean, and when I killed the deer, he was dead in seconds. I mean, I dropped him. Yeah. And so hunting is super humane. It was a very humane way of taking them out. And yeah, I mean, it's the meal that we have off of that buck is awesome. And I mean, the memories, like that buck, when I look at it on my wall, it's not like a bloodlust thing of this head on my wall. It's like, man, I can remember just that feeling was not like nothing else. I've been hunting this deer for years.
And I'm sure you weren't the only one.
No. Between me, there was me and probably two other guys legally pursuing this deer pretty hard, and there was a lot of poaching heat on this deer. I mean, the game warden, he came when I killed it, and he like sighed. He had a big relief. He was like, man, I'm so glad. He said, I thought that we for sure were going to have some poachers take this deer.
And you got him. But anyway, I sidetracked you again, but I just wanted to know about it. Like I said, I saw the picture back there, and I'm not moving that camera because we got it working.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know what I did to your phone here, but
I think we're good. Let's see.
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. Well, anyways, so there's a way that I like to start. I think we're going. There's a way I like to begin mine, and I like to ask 3 general questions. And I usually, to get the ball rolling, which we're rolling already, but I'm still going to ask you the questions because it's a lot of times it kind of builds some pretty good conversations. Man, it is coming down out there. Well, all right, the second one, yeah, you can. I'm even picking it up in my mic there a little bit. Let me turn that down.
Yeah, all right, it's raining.
Yeah, it is. It's pouring down. If you had to watch one movie for 24 hours in a row, what are you watching?
Well, I know you're going to think it would be a car movie, and if I chose a car movie, it would be the greatest drag racing movie of all time, which is Two Lane Blacktop. But I'm not choosing that if I got to watch it for 24 hours. I'm going to watch Pulp Fiction.
Okay, so you're a Quentin fan?
His movies are pretty gory, pretty rough, pretty vulgar and all those sort of things. But Pulp Fiction, I think you could watch it 24 hours straight and pick something up different every time you watch it.
He puts a lot of like Easter eggs in his films.
He really does.
That's a good one. No, I was like waiting on Days of Thunder or something, Bullet, like on
the movie thing, people will probably find this funny, but I love something about baseball movies. Like The Rookie. The Rookie I can relate to myself because I was 30-something years old before I went top fuel racing. Kind of like the school teacher that, made it to the major leagues. What is the other? For the Love of the Game.
Yeah.
I can relate that to driving the race car, to when you stage and when Kevin Costner's on the mound, it's like clear the mechanism. And it goes right down to the catchers. I don't watch baseball, but there are some baseball movies. But at any rate, Pulp Fiction would be the 24-hour. But all those movies I just told you, if they're on, I'm going to stop and watch them.
Yeah. So what's your favorite scene in Pulp Fiction?
Man, there's so many of them. There's so many of them. I love when Bruce Willis, has come out of the pawn shop and he goes to get his girlfriend and she's like, "Who's Choppa, baby?" And it's Zed's. Who's Zed? Zed's dead, baby.
Yeah.
That's a pretty. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh, the
Samuel L. Jackson when he shot Marvin in the face. John
in the car.
Yeah, in the car. You shot Marvin.
That's
in the
what
face,
I was about to say. The scene when they show up and it's actually Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
They show up at his house. Yeah, and he's like. The explosion inside the car, and he's like, "What the crap?"
Exactly.
Yeah, because he's just like waving the gun. He accidentally shoots him.
Accidentally shot Marvin in the face. There's so many good scenes in there. It's a good movie.
Yeah,
it is rough and gory, but man, it's a good movie. I like it.
I do too. I'm a Tarantino fan. I like a lot of his stuff. I loved Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained.
Yep.
I haven't seen the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I don't think I've seen that either, actually.
See that one? It's actually the Manson murders take place during it.
Dang, I don't know how I missed that. The Hateful Egg.
Yep,
that's a good one.
And that one actually felt like an old Western.
It really did.
It had that feel to it.
I watched an interview with Samuel L. Jackson, and apparently they said it was so brutally cold. It was actually cold where they filmed that but nobody wanted to leave, so they just
toughed it out.
They toughed it out, and it's a good movie, but it's rough too. Ooh, it's rough.
Well, if you go into a Tarantino movie, I feel like you got to kind of know what you're walking into.
I agree.
It is. It's not going to be one that like my children are going to
take your kids to that. No, you're not going to take your kids to that. That's for sure.
All right, so last one. If they made a movie about your life, who is playing you?
Ooh, man. Well, I get this a fair amount, and I just said I was old, but the guy that people say I look like a younger version of is Clint Eastwood.
Okay, I can see that.
So I guess it had to be his kid, and I'm drawing a blank of his kid's name, Scott.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I look like Clint Eastwood, but I get it. Matter of fact, when we used to be able to have driver intros, the guy that would introduce us out to the crowd, he would say that every now and then.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. No, I think it's the hair.
Yeah. Well, you kind of got
or the smile wrinkles,
or
something. I don't know. Go ahead and make my day, I guess.
Yeah, man, and that'd be a good line there to kind of intimidate the guys there, make my day.
Exactly.
No, I can kind of see that. But yeah, you would definitely want Scott because Clint Eastwood's like 100. So you wouldn't want. I don't think he could be pulling it off now.
Me and Donna we were on the movie thing. Me and Donna just watched The Mule again for about the 5th time.
I haven't seen that.
It's good.
I need to see it.
Clint's playing him an old guy. He's not hiding it in no stretch of the imagination. It's a good Clint Eastwood movie.
I need to. I love his stuff. While we're talking movies, Mystic River. Have you seen it?
I have not seen that.
All right, he directed it, and it's I mean, it has a brutal ending, and I mean, it's a pretty brutal movie throughout. My wife, Marcy, hates it. Like anybody that I've showed it to typically hates the ending, but I like a real ending.
Right.
And this has like a pretty real raw ending. So
it's not a Hollywood ending, is what you're telling me.
No, it ain't the like happy, it just, people need to check it out. It's a brutal movie, but I like it. So, all right, now you've done a lot. You got a pretty awesome life, and let's take it back, man. How did it start? Who is Mr. Clay? What started Clay Millican? Take us all the way back to the beginning where you grew up and all this.
Wow. Well, I mean, if you're asking what started me down the path of race cars, that certainly goes back to my daddy. My daddy, he raced. I don't remember it. He drag raced. I do not remember it, but he always had cool cars. But he took me and Tracy and Lee to every kind of motorsport you can imagine. I mean, obviously we went to, sprint car races over in West Memphis, Arkansas all the time. We went to Talladega, Daytona, Bristol, Nashville when the Cup cars raced there. I'm a huge Richard Petty fan. We named our oldest son Cale after Cale Yarborough.
Yeah.
Had Donna allowed it, I would have named Dalton Kyle after Kyle Petty, but she's like, Cale and Kyle's too close, way too close when you're yelling at the kids. But I don't know. There was something about, just going fast that I just consumed me. But I don't know how old I was. I don't even know. I don't even want to say. But one of my first real memories of a dragster was at Lakeland International Raceway, which was long gone before you came around. But Lakeland was an awesome drag strip in Lakeland, Tennessee. They had a road course. They had obviously the drag strip, but they also had like a lake with sand, and you could go hang out. And they had fair kind of rides over there. But Daddy took me, and I saw Big Daddy Don Garlett's race there, and I was off and running.
Yeah.
And at that point,
how old were you?
Man, it's a very early memory. I'm going to say 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that.
So it bit you that young.
Yeah, real young. And so all I wanted to do was go fast. Like it was just go fast. And it didn't matter if it was, bicycle, mini bike, whatever the case may have been. I just loved going fast. I still do.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off from there. And, I never wanted to round race, even though we went to West Memphis all the time. I loved going and watching, but it was just something about going really fast. And so, we started drag racing when I was 15 years old. They let Daddy sign for me to race it in Jackson, Tennessee. And man, one of the greatest days ever was when they stuck the gold shovel in the ground to open, break ground at Memphis International Raceway now.
Yeah.
And, man, but
what were you driving then? What was the first car?
First car that I ever went down the drag strip in was a 69 Dodge Charger, big old boat. And I thought that it was the fastest thing there was, period.
Would it have 440 in it?
It was a 383 car, and it was not very fast. I thought it was until we went to the drag strip, and, we didn't know anything about it at all. We get there, and they're like, what class are you running? We're like, well, what's the fastest class you got? And so we signed up for what was called Super Pro, and the car wasn't even fast enough to run in Super Pro. So I had to go back and just run in Pro, which was basically street car, you know. And
what's your times? What were times like on that?
So it's 8th mile, and that car probably run in the 8th mile, and high 9s or something like that.
Yeah.
High 9s. And to give you some idea, and the people that are listening to your podcast, I have been as quick as 2.89 in a top fuel drag strip.
Yeah, crazy.
So a massive difference there, and those high 9s were probably at, 65, 70, 80 miles an hour, maybe.
Yeah.
Where the top fuel car, I've been 298 miles an hour in the 8th mile.
Little difference.
Half track,
Yeah.
But, I started what's called bracket racing. I did that for years and years and years, and I met a guy that was vice president of Torque Converter Incorporated, TCI Automotive, guy named Raymond King. Mom and Daddy let me drive to Ashland, Mississippi because I needed a torque converter, and I just got my driver's license and met this guy. He was super nice, and he liked Dodge powered race cars. And
did you drive the Charger there?
No. It was broke.
Okay.
I don't even remember what I drove down there, but I met this guy, and he kind of befriended me and showed me around at TCI, and I didn't have a clue what I was looking at. Again, I was, just turned 16, and eventually I called him and said, what do I got to do to start traveling, going to national events and that sort of thing. And he just took me under his wing and started helping me. And when I say helping me, that was more kind of guiding me what to do, and I would go with him to the races. And the next thing you know, TCI, I'm making this story, which is my whole life. I'm trying to shorten it a little bit.
Oh, man, hey, goes long. Like say, and I'll kind of interject, ask you questions.
Yeah,
that's just the way I like to do it.
So TCI was eventually bought by the Felpro Gasket Company. Raymond King's really good at what he does, and they quickly moved him from Ashland, Mississippi to Skokie, Illinois, Chicago, basically. Yeah. And at this point, TCI, because they sell to so many sportsman racers, they are not going to write a sportsman racer a check to go racing.
Yeah.
That kind of
conflict.
Kind of a conflict. But what they did was help me with my fuel to go to the races if I hauled their display. So I hauled their display back and forth to the races. If people had a broken transmission, I would bring it back and have repairs done. So that was a huge help.
And you were a teenager at this time still?
No, at this point I had we done fast forwarded. I'm late high school, already dating Donna. I started dating Donna when I was a freshman in high school, but so late high school and out of high school at this point.
Yeah.
And this went on for several years, and eventually, when Raymond calls one day and says, "Hey, you're going to be racing in Cordova, Illinois. You need to come up a day early and display the car at the Felpro Company picnic." So I took off, and an extra day I worked at the Kroger Food Warehouse. I worked there for 11 years, so we're way past high school at this point. And
now, when you were working at Kroger, were you working there, did you know you were going to become a drag racer?
I know that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
How it was going to happen, no idea.
But did you believe in that?
Oh, 100% believed in it.
Yeah.
Donna would tell you in a heartbeat, I spent every dollar we had, to keep the car running. And back then, gas companies would send you credit cards for gas, and man, I had them run up everywhere. It was whatever it took to go to the races. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Just crazy. So I go to this company picnic, and they've got a lot of employees. I don't know how many, but a lot. It's a big place. One of the largest gasket manufacturers in the world.
Yeah.
And so I met this young guy named Peter Lehman. Raymond told me, his dad runs the company. And I didn't, I didn't think a lot about it at the time, but I'm like, that's cool. So I met this young guy. He's in college at the time. Go to the race that weekend, do my thing. I don't know, a week or two later, maybe even longer, Raymond calls me. He said, "Hey, you remember that young kid you met, Peter Lehman?" I'm like, "Yeah, kinda." And he said, "Well, he's writing a story at He went to Northwestern, a non-fictional story, and he wants to write it about what you do to go racing." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." I said, "Well, how do I do this? What do we do?" And he's like, "Well, I'll give you his phone number. You call him, and y'all figure it out." Well, we're coming up on the last race of the season, which was Darlington, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I called Peter, and I'm like, you probably want to fly to Charlotte or, something like that. And he said, "No, I want to experience everything you do to go racing." So as luck would have it, my old Dodge Dually got broken into, window knocked out, radio tore out of the dash, all this stuff. So I had to borrow a pickup, which meant I had to borrow a friend to come with that pickup.
Yeah.
And I worked night shift at Kroger, got off work. Donna and Marvin Trotter met me. We go to the airport with Marvin's truck, which was actually nicer than my truck, and my old trailer. We picked Peter up at the airport, Memphis International, and I drive all night long into the next day, the 12, 13 hours, whatever it is, to Darlington, South Carolina. And Peter's making notes the entire time, just asking questions, making notes. And you got to imagine now, this is a guy that went to boarding school, and now he's at Northwestern.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy that barely graduated from high school in Munford, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like I barely graduated because I hated school that much, So he's asking questions like, why are you doing this? It's obvious you spend every dollar you have to do this, and you got kids, and I'm like, man, I want to drive a top fuel car. Mm-hmm. And he don't even really know what a top fuel car is, and I said, you'll see them this weekend. They'll be at this race. So we get to Darlington. We put out now it's Felpro and TCI display, and we race my car, and things happen for a reason. I 100% believe that. I truly, truly do.
Absolutely.
I won my first national event that weekend. First national event I ever won was that weekend, with Peter there, and needless to say, he was hooked.
Yeah.
We just won a massive race in a borrowed pickup and, a nice little dragster, nothing nowhere near what I drive now.
What class were you in then?
It was the IHRA modified Eliminator. So
Okay.
it was a really fun class. Basically, it's a weight per cubic inch. So whatever size motor you got, your car has to weigh a certain amount based on a factor, weight per cubic inch. And it was unbelievable, won that deal. Peter and I became good friends, and we still are to this day. Matter of fact, he was at the race this past weekend with us, and so we just became friends, and he started helping, and I do mean helping financially. If I really, really needed something, he helped, and then he went in a business class. He wrote a paper, How to Go Racing for a Living, as a business.
Yeah.
And
he built that one off of hanging with you pretty much?
I know, because I had no idea how to do it for a living. He's a smart guy. I mean, he is super, super smart. But he kind of followed that plan that he wrote for that class.
Yeah.
And he was way ahead of his time, because now it's a common thing to hear the term business to business. That's a normal thing that you hear all the time now. But he was way ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that he really intended on buying a top fuel team, but again, he was, raised in the Chicago area, and they had just built a brand new racetrack in Joliet, Illinois, which, they talk about movies, Blues Brothers.
Okay.
Joliet Jake,
Yeah.
So he's like, man, it would be really cool to race top fuel at the very first race at Route 66 Raceway. And of course, I'm like, heck yeah, it would, And
Yeah.
so we figured out how for me to go get my top fuel license. Cost a lot of money to do that. And I got my license 1 week, and the following week I made my very first top fuel start. And we were sponsored that weekend by the Chicago White Sox. Peter put a deal together with those guys, and it was a one race deal. And, it might have, at the time, I wouldn't have really cared, because I got the opportunity to drive a top fuel car.
Yeah.
I made license runs in West Palm Beach, Florida. The following week, I was at Route 66 Raceway.
Now, how surreal was that? That had to have been like a moment where you were like, I'm actually here right now.
Oh, it was a lot of that. And a lot of that was even just getting my license, the opportunity to find out what that feels like.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people that have done this, what I do, for a long time, they were like, it's no big deal, But the truth is, the moment I put the helmet on and getting in the car for the very first time, I thought I was going to throw up. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I've always wanted to do this, but can I really and truly do it?
Yeah.
You don't know. You're fixing to do something that very few people in the world do.
Yeah.
They're the fastest accelerating vehicles on the planet. G-forces higher than the space shuttle being
That's what I was going to say. The G-forces have to be insane.
They're unbelievable. And, I tell this all the time. Because of what I've done for so long, I've got to do a lot of really cool things. And there is nothing that I've ever found that compares to what that's like. And I've done everything from jump out of airplanes to ride with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds.
Yeah. And those don't have the same G-force?
In a straight line, afterburner, wide open, No, not even in the ball game. Now, when they turn, that's a different deal.
Yeah.
But that's a different G-force.
Yeah, kind of coming at the side, I guess.
The dragster pushes on you where the airplane tries to shove you out the bottom of the airplane.
I got you.
Where the dragster's trying to push you out the back.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of G. But, the moment I put that helmet on, though, and they started the car, it was definitely one of those like, wow, I am really in a Top Fuel car.
Yeah.
And I was doing it with a guy named Paul Smith. He's an unbelievably cagey veteran tuner and has no filter. Tells you exactly what he's thinking. Doesn't matter who's there, what have you.
That's probably good, though.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Donna might have a different opinion on some things he said to her. He had a thing about, I don't know how to say this politically correctly.
Well, my podcast doesn't pride itself on being politically correct.
We're still Facebook
Well,
Live.
that's true.
We're still Facebook Live. Anyway, he basically said, no girls in the pits. I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah.
Whatever you can think of that rhymes with pits, that's what he said.
Okay,
How about that? And Paul Smith's awesome. I'm not knocking him, but he kind of told Donna that immediately when we got there for me to get my license. But they start that car up. I do the burnout, back up stage. When the tree flashed and I stomped on that loud pedal, they told me to, go 300 feet if you can.
Yeah.
If you can make it that far. I drove that thing right to the 330-foot cone, shut it off, and I just started smiling. I'm like, I can do this.
Now, why, if you can, are they saying because of the G-forces? A lot of people can't handle it?
Most people step off. Most people, he said, the moment they touch the throttle, they'll shut off.
Yeah.
Because it scares you. The acceleration is so fast, so instant, so violent. Most people will hit the gas and step off.
Yeah.
So he told me I could go, he said 300 feet, but there's actually a marker on the racetrack at 330 feet, so you visually got something to see. I went right to the 330 and shut off, and I'm like, I can do it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was no expert, but I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. It was incredible. And then you progressively go further down the racetrack to get your license, and it was insane. But so I've got all that going on. Like, man, I got my license. All this is great. And I'm the very first Top Fuel car to ever pull out on Route 66 Raceway. Brand new, beautiful facility. Man, this was a long time ago, 1998.
Okay.
It's a long, long time ago. This story's been told a million times, but I'm going to tell it for your audience because they're hunters and fishermen and farmers that are listening. They may not be race car people, but so here I am in the White Sox car, first time full grandstands and cameras and people. And so I do a burnout, and when I'm back, I put the car in reverse, and I think it's idling way too high. So a Top Fuel car has a toe loop on the throttle pedal. In other words, you insert your foot into the throttle.
Okay.
That way, if it hangs the throttle, you can pull it back.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a whopping, eight runs under my belt, and only one or two of them were full track.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this thing's idling too fast. So the adrenaline's really high when these things are running. Even though I weigh 140 pounds, I'm probably strong as Superman at that point. And
Oh, yeah.
I start pulling back on the throttle because I think it's idling too fast, and I actually broke the heim joint that the throttle cable's hooked to, which opened the throttle in reverse. So here I am. I just did a forward burnout. Now I'm basically trying to do a backwards burnout. Thank goodness it broke the reverser in the car. I was ready to head back to Kroger and ask for my job back, and
Embarrassed.
Yeah. I had to go see, one of the legends of the sport, a guy named Buster Couch. He was the official starter of NHRA forever and ever and ever. And he had moved up into the tower, and I got to go have a one-on-one with Buster Couch. That was not the most pleasant thing that I've ever been a part of, but it was what it was,
Yeah.
And I went back down. We made the next run. I ended up making my first 4-second quarter-mile pass, which was huge back then, to make a 4-second quarter-mile run. I didn't go over 300 that weekend. I think I went 298 or something like that. We failed to qualify, but it was still the most incredible weekend ever.
Yeah.
I competed against I didn't compete. I tried to qualify against some of the biggest names ever. You know, Kenny Bernstein, Larry Dixon, Gary Selsey, all these legends of the sport.
Yeah.
That I had been watching forever. Now I'm out there racing with them. It was crazy.
Was it a pretty big age difference between you and that group?
I mean, not like Larry Dixon, but like Kenny Bernstein's a little older than me. Gary Selsey's a little older, but you know they were there. You know,
yeah.
Obviously Kenny Bernstein, sponsored by Budweiser. Larry Dixon drove for Don the Snake Prudhomme. You know, so there's this whole craziness. It was pretty unbelievable.
Was that now? At that point, what was the fastest you had gone pre-Top Fuel?
Well, that is kind of crazy. A lot of people that go to Top Fuel will make their way up and eventually drive what's called an alcohol dragster. There's a class, and those cars go 240, 250, 200. Actually, some of them now are going 280. But back then, 240, 250 was probably kind of the number. Well, I didn't have that opportunity. You know, Peter got this deal put together with the White Sox, and the dragster that I had at that point, long way from a Top Fuel car, probably the fastest I had ever been's 180.
Oh man, so that was a huge jump.
Huge jump. Yeah.
Wow.
Almost double.
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, 180, that it would be 360, but from 180 to the first weekend, I went 298.
Yeah, that is a huge leap. Well, let me impress you real quick. I've gone 115 before.
Well, that is pretty good. That's fast.
Hey, it was a college day back in high school in my old GMC Sierra, and I had the little programmer on it, and I had a governor on it. It was shut off at like 95, and I put this programmer on there, and I turn the governor off. And so me and some buddies are going to Martin, and I'm like, let's just see what this thing will do. And it's got like big 33-inch mud tires, and the whole truck feels like it's going to come apart. But we got up to about 115. So I was only, I'm only about 200 miles away, or miles per hour away from where you've been. But 115. So, but no, man, that's wild. You went from that big of a leap.
And people always talk about speed, but the truth is the speed is actually not really that. I mean, it is a big deal. I was fixing to say it's not a big deal, but it's the acceleration and how quick you get to that point. So the car that I went 180 in, it would run low 7 seconds in the quarter mile. And we're talking about, I went my first 4-second quarter mile in 1998. So, I mean, 3 seconds in 1,320 feet is a lot.
Yeah.
I picked up that much time, and it was a massive, massive difference. It was, there is no comparison. The car's so quick, and it's crazy. The speed happens, but it's how quickly it does it.
Yeah, because I feel like if you went 300 miles an hour for a distance,
right,
like a long distance, like over time, you're probably not. I mean, I'm sure 300 miles per hour feels fast, but if it went over a distance, it doesn't have that violence that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's trying to literally crush you into the car.
Absolutely. Well, you think about riding in an airplane, you go faster than that, but there's no perception of how fast you're going in an airplane, But I guess I'll get in trouble for this, and I've never done it, and I respect what they do. But like at Bonneville, they run over a 5-mile course.
Yeah.
The problem with that they have is kind of like us as traction, and they're running on salt. But let's say there was a 5-mile flat asphalt place you could do that, and make your way up to 300. But again, the thing is the acceleration is so quick, so fast. It happens so quickly. Everything is just quick. 100 miles an hour in less than 1 second is even silly to say, but that's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
I mean, now, how do you prepare for that? I mean, like you said, you went, did you have to do anything to kind of prepare yourself for the G-force?
No, it's, and you can't drive a Top Fuel car part throttle either. It's like a light switch.
So you're there or you're not.
Yeah, you got to go or you don't.
Yeah.
The car is not made at all to drive part throttle. So you can't be like, all right, I'm going to ease down the racetrack. They don't work that way.
Yeah.
They are built for idle or wide open. That's pretty much how they're built. So I'm sure there's some kind of exercises you could do, but there is nothing that can prepare you for that.
Like I'm picturing you going to like the space training thing, and they put you in that thing that spins around or something.
Yeah, none of that for me. It was just go time.
Yeah,
it was absolute go time. I don't know. Like I say, I've done so many crazy things, but I've still never found anything that can really compare it to anybody. I mean, a horrible way to think about it is sort of like being in a car crash, and I hope nobody watching this, listening to this, have been in a car crash, but if you have, you get to a point after you've driven them a while to where it becomes the fight or flight thing. And my country boy version is your brain taking care of your butt.
Yeah.
That's what it is, so it slows it down some. And I've been in a couple car crashes. I've always kept my eyes open. I figure if you
might as well see it.
You might as well see it. If you're taking this ride, you might as well see it. And if you see a car crash when you're driving down the highway, it happens so fast.
Yeah.
It's like, man, did you see that wreck? I hit you. Did you see that? Well, when you're in that crash, it takes about 3 days.
Oh yeah,
It takes forever. Kind of like when you fall down the stairs or something. It's like
you see it in slow motion. Yeah.
So that's kind of how it is. Once you've gotten a little more used to that acceleration, but my crew chief, Mike Clover, back then in my heyday of the IHRA and now, he had always said it takes 200 runs before you're really driving the car. There's plenty of people that have went out and won immediately, but he said the old timers that he learned from it's 200 runs before you really know exactly what's going on.
I guess you're just along for the ride kind of before that.
I guess. We won a ton of races and things before I got to that 200 run mark, but the more you do it, the more, I don't even want to say you're prepared, but the more you are prepared for the unpreparedness. That's a weird way to put it. These cars will throw you curveballs all the time. It's subject to do something that you've never done before. It happens, but you become prepared for that acceleration.
Yeah. Is that now? I was going to ask too. Like, so it feels like a long time to you now in the track when you're going down. It actually doesn't, because what is it? 3 seconds?
A good run, a good normal run like this weekend was a high 3.7 second run.
Yeah.
It's fast and it's, it's getting with it, but when you've made as many runs as I have, when it's going really good or when it's just kind of okay.
Yeah.
Or if there's something wrong. So it's still unbelievably exciting. It's the ultimate roller coaster, hands down, no doubt about it. But it is fast, but yet I can take forever to tell you about one run.
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly what it felt like when the car tried to move, tried to do this or put a cylinder out, that's when you're on it. Now there are runs I've made and some of the other people say, oh, that never happens to me. There are runs I've made where it's like, good grief, what was that?
Yeah.
You weren't there. The car got in front of you and you just hung on for the ride.
Yeah.
That happens, whatever it is, a squirrel run in front of you or whatever, you lose that moment of thought and the car's just going so fast that you can't get caught back up to it. That happens. That does happen.
Now, you were in a pretty good wipe out there. Was it the Dukes of Hazzard car?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna say I remember that, man. Because it was some wild pictures. The car like flew up in the air. How long did that feel like? I feel like that probably felt like a century.
Oh, that is definitely that is the wildest ride I've ever took. We were in. First of all, we signed a one race deal to help promote the movie The Dukes of Hazzard, Johnny Knoxville, and that was a lot of fun to do that. So I had a 69 Charger, I just told you, growing up, painted orange.
Yeah.
Now I'm driving a top fuel car, and at this point I'd won 2 or 3 or 4 world championships. I don't remember when this was, like 2004, 2005, something like that. So now the top fuel car I'm driving is orange. Got 01 on the side of it, and we qualified really good. I think we might have qualified number 1. Semifinal round, I'm racing a guy that's second in points, a guy named Bruce Litton in the Lucas Oil car. And Mike Klober had the balance of our race car for I don't know how many races leading into it, but the thing wanted to carry the front end. So it's going down the racetrack, but it is flying. It is absolutely just laying numbers down, but it's just dancing the front end.
Yeah.
Like as it's going, as the clutch comes, it's just dancing the front end, but it's running so good we don't mess with it. So semifinal round there in Milan, it shakes the tires. Hindsight's always easy. It's like when you missed that deer the first time, you would have took a shot differently.
Oh, yeah.
So looking back on it, I can tell you what I did wrong, but it shook the tires and it really had quit shaking. It had drove its way through tire shake, and I'll talk about tire shake after I finish this story, but I pedaled the throttle. So I stepped off the throttle and back on, which usually when it's shaking, that'll help clear it up. It gives the tire a moment to relax and grab and go. So it starts carrying the front end. And I literally, again, this is, at that point, a 4.6 second quarter mile run, whatever it was we were on. I look over and I know I'm still ahead of Bruce Litton. He's number 2 in points, the semifinal round. But it's carrying the front end probably higher than it should have.
Yeah.
But it's still going, and I'm ahead. And the thing continues to start to slowly pick the front end more and more and more. And it's like, it's going to be all right. Well, the clutch is really starting to grab it, and it makes a pretty good move upward. I reach over and grab the brake. We have a brake handle in the car, and pulled on the brake hard as I could, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
When I can no longer see the top of the scoreboards, I step off the throttle. Or as the scoreboards are going away, I step off the throttle, and this thing starts rotating. And we're talking about a top fuel car is basically 30 feet long. So it's a long car. Yeah. So when it starts to come up, and it's not quite vertical, it has a carbon fiber body on it that just absolutely, it looks like a sneeze that you didn't cover your mouth up. It just explodes.
Yeah.
The body just poof goes away. And the moment this thing is straight up and down, it is the most silent moment of my entire life. It is so quiet, like it's just nothing. No sound, nothing. It's just quiet. Well, we have radios in the car, and I key the mic, and I tell Mike, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like I just said, I'm okay. No response. Well, it continues to rotate. When I'm starting to get upside down, I hear the car running again. Like now, I hear the motor, even though I'm beginning to I'm past vertical. So I did exactly what I would do on a normal run. I reached over and cut the fuel off. I cut all the computer switch off. I cut the ignition off, and I try to get in the fetal position because it's coming down.
Yeah,
it's fixing to hit upside down, backwards, going over 200 miles an hour, however fast it was going. So it hits, like this thing lands, and I'm going backwards. It hits. I'm all braced up, like I say, fetal position, just waiting, because as long as this car is, and as fast as it's going, it's got to start tumbling.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to spin around. It's going to tumble. It's going to go everywhere, whatever. It doesn't. It's just sliding backwards. Key the radio again. Mike, I'm okay. I don't even say Mike. I just say I'm okay. This thing's sliding, and it's sliding and sliding and sliding. And then I start to see the wall come in my vision. So I tighten up again.
Yeah.
Like that fetal position again, because I'm quite sure
about to smoke that wall.
The rear tire's going to catch the wall. It's going to go somewhere. But it just keeps going. So it finally comes to a stop. The IHRA officials later, I found out it was over 2,000 foot upside down and backwards. And it never hit anything, nothing. But I got to back up. I'm getting really long-winded on this, but I got to back up to early before Peter Lehman bought his own Top Fuel team that I started driving for. He rented another ride with another guy named Nick Bonifant, and Nick had a car, and he had hired Mike Klober to run the car.
Yeah.
And that's how me and Mike got connected. And so we didn't run very good. And we stayed and tested on a Monday in Reading, Pennsylvania. And Reading is awesome racetrack. Go really fast there. The weather's always good. There's a lot of trees. But it's fairly short. The shutdown area is fairly short.
Yeah.
At the end of the shutdown area, there's actually a county road that goes across. And they've got, a barrier that lets down when cars are racing. And you don't cross that road unless you have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Mike had taken me down there because I had never raced before. And he's like, telling me if something happens, don't try to turn and make the corner. Just go into the sand trap. On the opposite side of this county road, there's a sand trap. And there's a catch net. He said, just center up on that catch net and hit it. He said, if you were to have a problem. Okay, whatever. So fast forward to Monday, we stayed there to test because the car didn't run very well. I only had a very small handful of runs. I had done Route 66, and now we're doing this race. And I make a run. I think it's going, really, really, really fast. It did go 200 and, 50 or 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It didn't run very good, but I opened the parachutes, and when I grabbed the brakes, I had 0 brakes. I mean, none. I'm pumping the brakes like crazy. I have nothing. I'm weaving the car. I'm trying to do anything to slow it down. Well, I hit the sand trap, probably going 100, hit the catch net, and I thought, oh, man, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't realize at that moment that I hit the catch net was that it had stretched it out, and it sprung me backwards. So, I kind of relaxed because I thought the ride was over with. And it went backwards far enough. The parachutes on our cars are, they're 12 or 14 foot long. When I stepped out of the car, I was standing on the parachutes.
It launched you that far.
That far backwards. So Mike comes and the team come barreling down the racetrack, and Mike actually drove the tow vehicle off into the sand trap, got it stuck, but he was trying to get to me because it's a Monday and it don't necessarily have all the safety people that are typically there during a race.
Yeah.
So he comes right to me. I was fine. I got a lot of sand and gravel in my eyes because I kept my eyes open. I'm taking that ride. I want to see what happens, So when he gets to me, he grabs me, around the shoulder, and he's got his hand on my chest, arm around me, and he's like, you okay? You okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, man, you are vibrating. I'm like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That was scary, because I was trembling.
Yeah.
All over. So fast forward back to Milan, I flipped this car over 200 something mile an hour upside down, 2,000 feet backwards. And the safety team got me out. I was unhurt, 0. Like I didn't have a bruise. I didn't have anything. But it's mandatory. They're going to put you on a backboard. They're going to put you in the ambulance. Well, it's a rule that your team cannot come out on the racetrack because they've got professionals there to take care of us if we have a crash. Well, I know all the safety people. I've been racing, the IHRA series at that point a whole lot. And so I looked at one of the safety guys that I know, and I'm like, will you let Mike come over here just so he'll see that I'm okay?
Yeah.
So they waved Mike to come over. And the first thing he gets to me, I'm laying on the racetrack on a backboard, was my ankle and my knee. So he puts his hands on my ankle and my knee. And I look at him and I said, Mike, you're vibrating. He was.
You scared him,
I scared him. He was trembling from head to toe, but I was fine. And, that's definitely a highlight reel kind of crash. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, man,
as well.
yeah. And I mean, like say the pictures, it was notorious, man, for the pictures up there.
The pictures are incredible.
It couldn't have happened in a better car. I mean, the Dukes of Hazzard, that's typical.
Yeah, if you're going to crash, you got to crash the 01.
Yep.
You got to do it. You got to jump it.
Yep. Yeah, and you pretty much jumped. You launched it.
I launched it, no doubt. But I've been lucky, as long as I've done this. That's the highlight crash. I've had some other stuff that is way more scary to me. I've did a burnout at Reading in another car many years later. And when I was trying to stop at the end of the burnout, I broke the brake handle off the chassis. So,
so you lost all your brakes, or they?
I had the handle in my hand, like it just broke right off the chassis. So that was.
Man, you got to ease back on the Superman strength there. That's
it's a Popeye forearm.
I was gonna say that. Hey, they say that adrenaline strength is real.
I 100% believe it.
Yeah,
100% believe it. I mean, I've broke a spindle on a car, which means you have no steering, but. I've been very fortunate. You know, they do the knock on wood thing or whatever, but you don't think about it, but you know it can happen. You know, and we've seen it over the years with a lot of great drivers. Had some really ugly crashes. I mean, last year Leah Pritchett had a car, broke a chassis, and one of the ugliest crashes you ever seen. I mean, she was beat up and bruised up a little bit, but these cars have gotten safer and safer over the years. As things happen, they get better, but they're still going really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're in basically just a little cage, aren't you?
Capsule, absolutely. The driver cockpit area on these things is built like a bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, they are super strong. We've got carbon fiber in the floor. We got carbon fiber by your legs. You've got this titanium all around your head. They're lots of padding, but you're still going, 330 miles an hour or whatever. Anything can happen. But they have gotten safer. There's been a lot of changes to safety. Probably more safety stuff has been done since I've been driving these things than the chassis itself.
Yeah.
The basic dragster is still, there's little changes here and there, but more safety devices have been added since I've been doing this than the chassis has itself.
Yeah. So now, like you say, you were in IHRA. Do you remember the day you put in your 2 weeks or quit at Kroger?
May 10th, 1998. And I can't tell you birthdays. It was hard for me, like stats. People ask me about wins, this, that, and other. But there's two reasons I can remember May 10th, 1998. One is that's my sister Tracy's birthday is May 10th.
That's my birthday.
Is it really?
It is.
Well, hers is not 1998.
Well, no, mine's not 98. Mine was 91, but it's May 10th.
Yeah. That's funny. So, I turned in my 2 weeks notice and May 10th.
What's the second reason you remember it for?
Day I got my top fuel license.
There you go.
The day I got my license is the day that I turned in my notice.
Yeah.
And I went for 2 years before Peter bought a team, and essentially Donna, which she always has and still does, but Donna paid everything. Like, she is who convinced me to quit my job.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask, has she always been on board with it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I aggravate her a lot about a lot of things, but she 100% pushed me to quit Kroger. She's like, you missed too many days, they're eventually going to fire you,
Yeah.
And I know how badly you want to do this. You may never get this opportunity again, but at that point, Peter didn't say I'm buying a team and we're going racing. He had put me in the Chicago White Sox car.
Yeah.
But she's like, you got to do this. And there's a Steve Harvey clip. I don't know if you ever watch any of Steve Harvey's stuff.
Taking the jump.
Yeah. That leap of faith.
Yep.
She believed in me that much that, she's like, you gotta take that jump.
Yeah.
I don't know, if she obviously did, but I gotta wonder sometimes, did she think, what in the world did I get him to quit his job for? Because I went 2 years without a paycheck.
Yeah.
And I kept racing my Sportsman dragster. Those Texaco cards I was talking about earlier, probably in our first attempt to go live, that's how I was buying gas, and you'd get a Visa card in, the card came in the mail back those days, and you didn't have to apply for crap. It showed up, and it took us many, many years to make up for that 2 years that we spent every dollar we had in savings and spent everything. But it was 100%, I have no regrets, of following her advice.
Yeah.
But she made me quit. She did.
Well, that's cool to hear. And man, that's one thing I've always admired is the kind of the drive to pursue your dream. Like, that's something I've always admired about you, because a lot of people, and I realized this when I was a machinist. I would talk to a ton of guys, and I've said this a bunch of times on the podcast. Machinist it's a great job. Like, we need machinists. But 90% of the guys that I talked to, they had dreams and goals that they had missed or gave up on, or some of them just never even pursued them. And I always admire the guys that have the courage or whatever you want to call it to go after it and to pursue it. It's just, man, I wish more people would do it because, we see so many people that are, I think, like the sad and depression and things like that. I feel like even if you pursue it and don't make it, you still know you tried.
Yep.
And a lot of people never even try.
You're right. Something my mama said all the time about me and other people is you got to have the want to.
Yeah.
And if you've got the want to, you can figure it out. Not going to be easy. It may be the hardest thing you've ever done. But if you want to bad enough, somehow, some way you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And let's say you don't, you get to where you want to, and maybe it's not where you want to be. For me, I got to where I wanted to.
And that's where you wanted to be.
It was where I wanted to be,
Yeah.
But I know of other people that, had a goal or a dream and they kind of got there and then they're like, I thought this is what I wanted to do, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
But if you have the want to, I encourage people, if you want it worse than you want to go out and hang out with your buddies, worse than you want to just, watch TV, you're going to give up a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I said I don't regret what me and Donna did, the decision of her pushing me. Don't regret that at all. Are there some regrets that come along with it? Absolutely. You know, for the first however many years, I missed a ton of my kids.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get to fly to the races and I didn't get to take them with me. They were in school and Donna had a normal job. So I had the want to bad enough that I did it anyway.
Yeah.
The tough part was just being gone. If we had multiple races in a row, that meant I was gone for a couple weeks in a row, so that part, that's tough,
Yeah.
But the other side of it was good that when I was home, I was home.
Yeah.
So I was home, but there's always goods and bads. No matter what you dream about, there's always downsides to what the dream is.
That's the same way like we talk about with farming. With me farming, we have our busy times. Mm-hmm. And when it's our busy time, I mean, sometimes I'll come home and Marcy and the kids are already asleep. Yep. And I mean, I'll leave. They might not even be up yet. And then when I come home, they're asleep. Yep. And we have that. And I mean, we run hard when it's time. But then like today it rained. I kept my kids all day. Yep. And during the wintertime, she's like, go away. Like I'm home too much.
Right.
So it's, I understand what you mean 100%. Yep. I mean, and it's a balance that you kind of learn like, okay, yeah, I'm gone a bunch here, but I'm home a bunch here too.
Yep. But you still kind of have that, man, I miss that.
Yeah.
Because I'm gone and when it's time for y'all to harvest, you can't stop.
Yeah.
So let's say there's a ball game or there's, karate practice or whatever it may be. You can't get that back. But
no.
At the same time, you got to, at the point I'm talking about, I was providing for my family. It's no different than when y'all are in the field. You can't stop. You can't stop. But it still sucks to miss that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There ain't no getting it back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So you've been, like say, you world champion IHRA. How many championships you win in IHRA?
We won 6 in a row.
6 in a row. Is that when you, after the 6th one, is that when you were like, all right, we're bumping into an NHRA, or how did that work?
No, I mean, I get that question a lot, and it's racing. I don't care how much you win, and we won a lot. That car, that shirt you got on there, we won a lot. It says right on the bottom of that shirt, all-time winningest pro driver.
Yep.
Which means we won a lot. But I don't care how much you win, you can't pay for what it costs to run a top fuel car.
Yeah.
I mean, we win a season, we won every race but one, and we were in the final round of it. It still won't pay. It still won't cover what it costs to run a top fuel car. So you do this with sponsorship. You get partners and you work with them. And a lot of people, they ask, well, why did you stay in IHRA? Because Werner Enterprises paid us to race at the IHRA. So to me, I didn't. This will sound funny. I must say I didn't care where I raced, and I truly didn't.
Yeah.
Because I am living my dream. I'm getting paid to drive a race car.
Yeah, you just want to race.
I just want to race.
Yeah.
And we had a great company in Werner Enterprises that did a lot of business with, I'm telling stuff now on Facebook Live. We're going to cut y'all loose in a minute after I finish this. But Werner Enterprises did a lot of business with Feld Entertainment and Clear Channel. Really Clear Channel. Clear Channel owned the IHRA series. So for Werner, it made sense for them to spend their sponsor dollars with a company that spent a lot of money with them.
I got you.
That made sense.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't haul, like a little bit of stuff for Clear Channel. They hauled a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were paid to race in the IHRA, and I didn't make the move to the NHRA until Werner Enterprises didn't renew their contract.
I got you. Okay.
And even then, I had several years where I only was able to run partial seasons here and there until we found sponsorship to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't honestly, I go where we're paid to go.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. IHRA, I am so proud of everything we did there. It was an incredible run and wouldn't trade it for anything. We learned how to race there. We learned how to win there. We learned how to chase points, and we won championships. We raced there for 7 seasons in a row. The first year we finished second, and then we won 6 straight championships.
Dang, yeah.
It was an incredible run. But I've always, told that it didn't really matter to me. I'm racing where I'm paid to go race because that's how I feed my family.
Yep.
And that's what I did. But I loved my time in the IHRA. It was incredible. I hate that they don't have the pro classes anymore. IHRA is still out there. They're doing the sportsman classes, but it was such a great place to not have to do 24 races to chase a championship.
Yeah.
NHRA is, which COVID, let's not even get on that schedule because they don't know what it's going to be all the time. But
yeah.
A normal NHRA season's 24 races. Well, the IHRA was 10 to 12 races.
Okay.
So we were able to not necessarily have to have, 12 full-time people. We could do it with 3 or 4 and some fly-in people.
So a lot more affordable.
A lot more affordable while you're still learning how to do it.
Yeah.
And then actually become good at it. You know, and we were able to take basically that team was the initial group was all people from right here in Drummond's, Tennessee, Tipton County.
I think I remember a lot of that because that's, we would come and watch you in Memphis.
Yeah.
And I remember several of the guys were local around here.
Yep.
Because, that was the first time because y'all fired the car up in the pit. And, I always thought it was awesome because we'd get to go to the hospitality area there. And, man, people would be like watching. I felt like a bad dude getting to go into the special. But, man, y'all'd fire the motors up. And, it would, like, shake your whole body.
Oh, it's crazy. It is crazy. Logan, I'm going to take this opportunity. I don't know how long we've had you guys on tonight, but we are not done here. You got to tune in. When will the podcast post?
Actually, I'm going to put this one up tomorrow morning.
Dang, you're going to stay up late.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it up.
It's raining this week. No farming.
Yeah, no farming. Not much work to be done. But yes, it'll be up tomorrow morning.
Living Fully Loaded. You'll be able to tune in and catch the rest of our conversation. I don't have a clue how many subjects we're going to get on, but I bet you it'll be a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Everybody, sorry about the problem with the old iPhone to start with tonight, but thank you guys for tuning in. Next Tuesday night, don't know what we're doing, but it'll be fun. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Appreciate it.
And I'm going to come around there and cut you off.
All right. We're back on here. If some of you are joining us from the live video, I appreciate you tuning back in. Mr. Clay, you ready to rock and roll some more?
I am. That was fun. That was something I've never done before. We do the Tuesday night, we call it the DNC show, and once we got past our technical difficulties, looks like we had a lot of people watching.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, that looked good on there, and it seemed like everybody was enjoying it. And I've been having a good time. Like
it's
I said,
fun.
It's been. That's what I just love. I love hearing people's stories and sharing it. And like I said, it's been really cool to get a drag racer on here because this is a whole new ball game.
Yeah, it's different audience for you, and I think it's cool that you invited me, and definitely appreciate it.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I'm honored to have you on. So now let's go. All right, you're in NHRA. Was that how different was NHRA versus IHRA?
To be honest, I mean, when we were dominating in the IHRA, we would occasionally run some NHRA races and had pretty good success. I mean, we had a stretch where we took the Werner car, the IHRA car, and we went to 3 consecutive final rounds in the NHRA.
Yeah.
And again, I was talking about before we took our little break there that I was paid to race IHRA, but we would go do some because we wanted to, and we wanted to, see how we did.
Yeah.
So we did really, really well with that car. And then once, I made the move full time, the biggest difference, when people ask this all the time, how are you so dominant over there and you're not in NHRA? The biggest difference is I've never had the equivalent budget that I had.
Yeah.
I talked about there's 10 to 12 IHRA races versus, back then it was 22, I think 22. So
yeah.
You're essentially adding, 10 more races. And
so you got to have a heck of a crew.
You got to have a heck of a crew and a heck of a budget. And, so really and truly, I have never had the equivalent of per race money that we had in the IHRA, and that's just
what's a ballpark? Because I've heard like NASCAR, and it is like to be something that like a NASCAR in the main, like with Jeff Gordon. Well, Jeff Gordon's retired, but it's like millions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's a ballpark kind of figure?
I can tell you that. All right, Don Schumacher Racing, DSR. They're one of the biggest teams out there.
Yeah.
If you want to go drive one of his cars, if you want to show up with your helmet, and whether you're just independently wealthy or whatever the case may be, you need $4.5 million.
Yeah.
Now, I took you to the top.
Yeah.
That's I'm telling you.
So you could let's say
Logan Hanks could show up
and not have any experience, but I could win the lottery today and be like, I'm going to go race Top Fuel, and I could show up and just buy my way into a car.
Buy your way in 100%. And
then get the doors blown off of me by everybody else.
Not necessarily. They would, teach you, train you, and if you have any kind of skills at all, you'll have a car capable of winning.
Yeah.
Now, am I saying we're in that 4.5 million? Not even close. But that's kind of where they're at. John Force Racing, same kind of numbers, and we battle that, and we were able to hang with them. We've done really well, but I've never had that kind of budget.
Yeah,
but that's where they.
So what do you do? How do you find the way to be competitive with a lesser budget?
With your people.
Yeah.
Your people that take care of the car and work on the car. Crew chief has a huge part of it. Everybody that is part of our team, they, some of them, they've been to those big teams and it's a job.
Yeah.
Our team is a family. We work at it. We run our parts longer than some of those big teams, and they'll throw stuff away that we would keep running. But it's what we have to do to survive. But at the same time, we're able to love and rub on those parts and stay out there and run with I call them factory teams.
Yeah.
If you follow the motocross world at all, you want to ride for a factory team. You want to ride for Suzuki, Kawasaki, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I consider, DSR, John Force Racing, Kalita. They're the factory team.
I got you. Yeah.
I've had those opportunities and I didn't take them because I could never leave my people.
Yeah.
The people that I'm specifically talking about when the car was still based here in Tennessee, and we were talking earlier about it was people from around here. I couldn't leave those people.
Yeah.
It eventually happened, but that's because everybody got older, they got married, they got, whatever, I'm still best of friends with every one of those guys that was on that team. But life moves forward, and I turned down that opportunity a couple times, but I've always done it in a family manner. I don't know how to do it any differently.
And you sleep good at night probably doing that.
I do. And, do I sometimes wonder, should I? But the thing is, I probably wouldn't have done this for as long as I have because I probably wouldn't have been able to keep myself out here.
Yeah.
A lot of the driver's job, and it's really kind of crazy, but this happens in NASCAR, IndyCar. You've got to keep the funding, find the funding, and when I say that, the word's really partners. For me, it's been Parts Plus. This is our 11th year.
Yeah.
Average sponsorship usually is 3 to 5 years.
Dang.
3 to 5. That's a good run. I had Warner Enterprises for 6.
Yeah.
And, if I was with one of those big teams, I probably couldn't have, maintained.
I'm sure the loyalty's not the same.
No, it's not. I mean, and the difference in the money it takes to run our team versus that, $4.5 million, I probably wouldn't have been 20 some years doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's how do you see yourself? How long do you see yourself staying in the game?
I get that question a lot. I'm 55 years old. I still feel like I'm as good as anybody out there. Actually, most of the time I feel like I'm better.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact that I've made that many more runs than some of those young guys out there.
Yeah, you've well surpassed that 200 run you were talking about earlier.
Past that 200 run thing, So I don't have plans of stopping anytime soon. Would I like the ability to do what I mentioned Richard Petty at some point tonight, do what he did, what Don Perdome did, what Kenny Bernstein did, and have my own exit, a year where I tell everybody this is it, I'm leaving. I don't know that I'll do that, but it's all about those partners. As long as I can keep going, I don't want to quit anytime soon.
Yeah.
And even when it does happen, I'm going to stay in the sport somehow, some way.
Yeah. Well, I was actually I was talking to some guys today about this podcast tonight, and I was telling them, we were talking about you, and I said, one thing, because you'll look like on Instagram, for instance, you can look at guys and there will be some other top fuel dragsters and they're doing well, but they'll have like a pretty small following. Mm-hmm. And then you get on there and, you've got over 50,000 followers on Instagram, even more than that on Facebook. I mean, like I said, we already got pretty good viewing on the video.
Considering our technical difficulties.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, with your YouTube and I mean, like, man, you're good. There's no doubt about it. But I can't help but think too, you're a good guy.
Well, thank you.
And that's man, and you're good to people. Like you tell that, and that you say you're loyal to your team. And there's a ton of people I feel like that the minute a big guy came knocking, they would chunk the team to the fire. I mean, they're gonna go after the dollar and go after that. So I mean, Maybe I'm like a naive guy, but I still believe that like the good guy wins.
I have already won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, if Doug Stringer, my team owner, were to call tomorrow and it's like, man, we're done.
Yeah.
And I have got those phone calls. Man, I'm sitting here trying to think. What 1998 to 2021, 23 years.
Yeah.
Is that right? I've gotten that phone call before, but I had the want to bad enough that I figured out another way to keep going.
Yeah.
I've gotten those phone calls. Sooner or later it'll happen, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep out, maybe not driving, but I'm gonna keep in the sport somehow, some way. I love it. It's been my whole life, and there's other ways to make a living out there without necessarily driving. I could see myself at some point. I would, who knows, maybe be on the TV side of it or something. But
yeah, and you've done that for a little while.
I have. I've done a few television shows over the years. That was a ton of fun. God, they're a ton of work, and I'm obviously not camera shy. I'm not afraid to talk. I love talking. Donna will tell you I talk way too much.
Well, we're similar there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I've jumped in both feet on the YouTube thing. Me and you talked about that a lot before we went live, you know, but the TV shows I did, they were really fun. You know, I did one, it was really a pilot, but they actually filmed, I don't know, I think 10 episodes of a show called Blow It Up, and it was basically me as the host standing on the racetrack making guys do brutal things to their race cars.
I remember that.
To see if they would break. That was cool, and that was just a pilot. It was never meant to be like a long-running series, and then that turned into a show called Drag Race High, which was, you know, in today's world, that sounds like Drag Race High, but Drag Race High School really is what it was. But, and that show, it was one of those that just kind of hit you in the feelings, you know. Go to rival high schools, to the auto shops, and pick out some kids out of those shops and give them. I think we gave them like $10,000. We gave them a car, and they had a phone number to Summit Racing. They could buy X number of dollars in parts, and they built a car, and then they raced each other. That was so much fun, and that ran for a couple seasons. And what happened, I get this all the time, was Speed Channel went away. Those shows were on Speed Channel, and Speed Channel went away, and then the show got picked up in a different version on MTV2, which was crazy. You know, MTV2, I don't know what year this was, doesn't matter, but, you know, holy crap, I'm doing a show on MTV2.
Yeah.
And it was with Universal Technical Institute. I know you did a podcast talking about college versus tech schools and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
UTI is a huge school, you know, teaches auto body, teaches diesel mechanics, you know, regular cars, you name it. It's a huge, huge school. So we did a show at UTI, same premise as Drag Race High, but now we're doing it with college students. So it was a little more edgy, you know, because it's MTV2. And it was so much fun. And, you know, unfortunately, the show only went one season, and it was the third highest rated show they had on MTV2.
Dang, well, so what was the deal?
So my first question was, well, what beat us?
Yeah.
You know, what was number 2? What was number 1? Number 2 was Bellator cage fighting. Okay. I get that. And
don't say Jersey Shore or some crap was number 1.
And I'm sitting here, I'm honestly drawing a blank, and I can't believe it, but it was like bikini wrestling or something. I can't remember the show. It wasn't bikini wrestling, but something along those lines.
Something about as dumb as that,
Yeah, you know, it was Pretty Girls.
Yeah.
But we were the third highest rated show, and what they came back with, though, they said, you know, we love the show, it's great. And this had nothing to do with me. This was the producer of the show, a guy named Ray Eddings. He was the one dealing with all this with the executives of MTV2, but they wanted a show that had a 30-minute TV show is really 22 to 23 minutes.
Yeah.
The rest is commercials. Well, they wanted a show that had a beginning and an ending where it wasn't a series.
In every episode kind of thing or something?
Yes, every episode. They wanted a beginning and ending.
How do you cram that into 22 to 23 minutes?
Yeah, you know, and that's what he said. You can't do that. You're going to take the heart of this show, which is learning these kids and following them for 10 to 12 weeks, building this car, all the, you know, the hardships that go along with trying to figure out, are they going to make it under the time frame we gave them and all that. And he refused it. And he told them, you already have that show. And they're like, what are you talking about? He said, it's called Pimp My Ride. You remember the show Pimp My Ride?
Yeah.
They already had that show. It was just done with professionals.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I still feel like y'all's would have been different than that.
It would have.
It would have had more heart, because Pimp My Ride had kind of like some of that humor.
Fun.
Yeah.
It was just a fun show, and I liked it, you know, with the exhibit.
Yeah, that was a funny show. But I mean, they would do some
cool stuff.
I was going to say, some of the rides were pretty cool.
Some of them were pretty outlandish. But there was no way to build a drag car, and well, I mean, I guess there was if the budget was incredibly high, but you would have had to have professionals help put the cars together. And
now, what year was that?
Man, I told you, I can remember May 10th, 98.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say
remember.
that, see, now I would bet that you could do that show in an hour and it would do well, because I think, and I mean, we're at almost an hour and 40 minutes.
Yep.
And some of my best podcasts, I mean, I've got some that tip over the 3 hour mark.
Right.
And people like them. I mean, we look at Joe Rogan. People listen to 3 or 4 hour long podcasts. And even now TV shows like Marcy and I, we love Yellowstone.
Donna does too.
Dude, that's my show. But they're an hour long episode. And you're seeing that. I think people, for years it was all short.
Yep.
Everything was short. Span things. And I honestly think now people, because you lose a lot of the heart of the stuff. I mean, because it's hard to pack the heart and emotion into a 22 minutes, 23 minutes. But like an hour, you can put a good bit in an hour time span.
You can, but Yellowstone's a perfect example. You got to tune back in next week.
Yeah.
So
think about if you had to do like a new one each time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what they wanted, but whenever that was, I'm just going to take a guess. That was 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. That's when that was. But people consume their entertainment differently now. You probably record Yellowstone.
We never watch it live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, people are watching on their phones, they're watching on their tablets, they're, the Netflix, Hulu, you name it.
Yeah.
So it's changed from back then. Back then, yes, we had cable TV and you had a few hundred channels or whatever, but it was still so driven by the commercials and that sort of thing. And a lot of people don't realize a lot of reality shows, until they really blast off, somebody raised the money to put that show on. So I just mentioned the guy named Ray Eddings. Ray raised the money, and he paid for the show on MTV too.
Really?
Yep. Now,
I bet that wasn't cheap.
No, it definitely was not cheap.
Yeah.
Now, there's revenue sharing. There's things to gain some of that money back because there's X number of commercials. And if you give them the content, and I'm saying this, and a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to give them content. Well, it's not that simple. They have to approve it. They got to like it. They're involved with it, but they're not paying for the production. The first couple years of the show, that's typically how it goes.
Yeah.
But you get some of that commercial time. Then you got to have somebody to go sell those commercial spots to help gain the money back that you spent to produce the show.
Yeah.
So anyway, it
sounds like a complicated process.
It is. But once they get going, after they get a year or two under their belt, then the network will step up and kind of remove that burden from
once they see that it's actually going to be a product, like make some income, I guess, kind of thing.
Yep. And that's more of reality-based thing. Back then, I've not done a show in so long, so that stuff changes all the time. No different than we were just talking about how people get their entertainment now.
Yeah.
But back then, that was kind of how it worked. And I learned a lot. When I first got the opportunity to be on TV, which the first thing I ever did, really, besides the Blow It Up thing, I was on Pink's All Out.
That's what I was going to say. I remember Pink's, because that was on Speed, too,
that
wasn't
was
it?
on Speed, and that was the number one rated show there was. And now the network 100% paying for that one after the first year or two. But I was excited because, I thought, man, I'll get a SAG card. You'll get, benefit. There's benefits.
Yeah, we could might see you in the next Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all those things. But one of the things that people don't know, is that reality TV bypasses all that. So you're not part of SAG, and
so you're not in the Screen Actors Guild.
Nope.
Oh man, I figured. I just assumed to air time on TV you would have had your SAG.
Yep, I would have loved that because, like I say, there's benefits that come along with that when you get older. But reality TV circles around that. It's not necessary, or
because they consider it nonfiction kind of thing, or something.
So I don't really know, but I know some people that have their SAG card and you've got to do enough television things to where you get retirement out of that. Well, I'm not in that at all. There's no retirement from reality TV or drag racing.
Wow. No, I didn't. But I did not know that SAG had retirement either. But I knew they had like their pay scale where like they can kind of keep you from getting taken advantage of and things like that. But
reality TV circles that.
so you
I
can
didn't make a whole lot of money doing it.
Okay, well, dang, they're kind of like the farmers then.
Yes.
You know, we don't have retirement and we don't have any sort of, there's no overtime.
Yeah, there's no benefits at the end of the rainbow.
No.
So I actually know one guy. He's a very famous drag racer from way back in the day, and his name is Tommy Ivo. He was known as TV Tommy Ivo. He was a child actor. What was the TV show? Margie or something like that. We're talking all
way back.
Way back.
Yeah.
He was a child actor, and he continued to do television, and he's reaping the benefits now.
Yeah.
He has insurance.
Did he do it only as a child?
No, he continued doing it, but he never had any gigantic roles because, like me, he was consumed with race cars.
Yeah.
And, he probably got himself in trouble a time or two from continuing to race while he was, trying to do a series or whatever. But, yeah, it's out there, the SAG thing. I'm sure there's a lot of people that know way more about it than me. But all I know is I was initially because of knowing TV Tommy Ivo, I'm like, man, I might can get a SAG card and start, packing away some retirement. But no, not on reality TV.
Yeah. Now you you had the one car, was it the, you kind of made me think about it when you started for some reason when you started talking about the SAG, reminds me, it was the Saliva car that you had.
Yep, we did one race with them. But on the music thing, I did an entire season with Rat.
Okay, really?
Rat.
Yeah.
Yep, Saliva, obviously a Memphis area band. And we did a race with that on the car, which was really cool. They had
what was the...
Click, click, boom.
Is that what was on there?
No, it was just this crazy looking logo
but
with their name.
Okay, it was right. I remember that. I can even almost remember the album. I was trying to think of the album they had come out.
Think of it either.
Because now,
man, I hadn't thought about that car in a long time. Everybody always asks about Rat, and not that. But I think we only did the Memphis race with
the Saliva car.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, see that. No, I was a Saliva fan like that. Now, I like some Rat, but Rat was...
that was before your time.
I was going to say, that was... But now, see, like Led Zeppelin, that's what I grew... Like, in high school, when my buddies were listening to... A lot of them listened to rap, and I was not... Did you listen to rap?
Still do.
You're a rap head.
I am.
What now? So you listen to 3 6 Mafia?
A little bit. I do, but I know we're on a podcast, but I'm just going to... I don't want to go... to podcasts. I want to go to Pandora just to show you right quick. Let's turn it down.
I did not have you pegged
Most
as a
people
rap
don't.
guy.
So there you go. There's Nelly, ZZ Top, Gold Digger Radio, Drake Radio. I mean, it's
you got a pretty
Chingy
good
radio,
variety there.
Old school rap radio. That's the closest I will get to country music.
The Kentucky Headhunters.
That's the closest I'll get to it, and I think that's more Southern rock than.
But now I don't hold that against you. I don't like country music.
I don't either.
The only country that I can listen to is like old. I liked some Charlie Daniels and some of the old stuff. I
think of Charlie Daniels as Southern rock.
Well, he could fall in that category, but because I can't stand modern country. Like Luke Bryan makes me want country music to go away, and I mean I even partly hate to say that because he's a hunter. Yeah. I mean I think he's probably a guy that I would get along with, but his song, what's that one song?
Man, I couldn't tell you.
Rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey. Whiskey makes my baby feel a little frisky. I can remember that. And that line makes me, as a farmer, it like makes me mad. I'm like, his whole thing for this rain and making corn is just to make his baby feel a little frisky. Like, I'm like, what a dumb lyric. So, no, I'm not
I have never heard that.
Well, you are not missing out. It is a terrible song. But no, See, I didn't listen to a lot of rap. Led Zeppelin was kind of my jam in high school, and Alice in Chains. I was more of the hard rock metal kind of thing.
See, I am an AC/DC guy when it comes to the rock music thing. And if you told me, if I'm gonna get dropped off on a desert island and I can have, one band. That's probably who it would be.
AC/DC?
Probably.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking, man, I love some Ice Cube too. I love Ice Cube stuff. Love Dr. Dre. I love most.
Now I like a lot of that. I liked Dr. Dre. Like if I'm lifting, it's hard to beat some Dr. Dre. Like he's good lifting music. Ice Cube. I don't know a ton of his. I know that It Was a Good Day or whatever. That's a good one.
Yep.
But then I liked some of the hard, like 3-6 Mafia and stuff.
I do too. I mean, well, like I said, I just pulled up the Pandora there. Like I like Nelly. I like a lot of that. And I do not care for his personal life stuff, but Kanye West has some really hard-hitting stuff that I like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a talented guy.
I love Gold Digger. That song Gold Digger is just, that'll get you just pretty pumped up.
Was Jamie Foxx in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jamie Foxx actually had the harder part of the song.
Yeah. Yeah, because he kind of sings. Is he the one that, doesn't he sing the like?
Oh, yeah. He's doing the singing, really.
I had his, I remember in probably my senior year, I bought, because he did a hip hop album or something, and I bought his album. But I mean, man, rap. My knowledge of rap is pretty slim. My favorite rap song of all time is got to be "Wanna Be a Baller."
Yep.
That one's
Shot
like
caller, absolutely.
That one. If someone said you can only listen to one rap song, I'm picking "Wanna Be a Baller."
That's a good one, no doubt it.
So do you listen to music to get hyped up?
I don't. I used to have all these, things that I felt like I had to do, I am so far away from any kind of superstition, what have you. I am very consistent about what I do, but I don't have to be moved into the zone, so to speak, until I'm in the car.
What is your routine?
Most of the drivers you will see, like with the tow vehicle that pulls the race car up to the starting line, that sort of thing. They'll hibernate in there and nobody bothers them. But I typically will have sponsor people in the car with me, or somebody that I know, whatever. But just the way I get in the car is the start of my routine.
Yeah.
I put my, the way I put my helmet on, the way I put my gloves on, that's really a routine, and that's mainly to not forget anything.
Yeah.
Don't miss a step.
Yeah.
Don't leave the pins in the parachutes, that sort of thing. But no superstitions. I have routines.
Yeah. Well, and that, like I said, that's probably, I know from like a hunting standpoint, I have not had much success with a bow, but I've been bow hunting for years. But it's a muscle memory kind of thing.
Yep.
Because your adrenaline does get to just absolutely just jacking whenever you're about to draw back on a deer. And so it's easy when your adrenaline pumps, you just forget everything.
Yep. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. I actually, I said earlier, I barely graduated high school. I read a fair amount, mainly when I'm on airplanes, but I've read a book on archery, actually.
Really?
Because, it's the same kind of thing. You need to, get ready for that moment. You got to be nice and steady. And I'm sitting here rambling because I'm trying to think of the book. And it's a small little thin book, and I'm pretty sure the name of it is Zen in the Art of Archery.
That sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, it's a really old book, and it's not about hunting or anything about like that. It's in the way back times, Zen in the Art of Archery. And it's one of those that you wouldn't think I'd listen to rap music, and you also wouldn't think I'd read a book like that.
Yeah.
But it's some really good stuff in there. And, I compare everything to drag racing, and I don't hunt, but squeezing the trigger, I like shooting guns. I've shot plenty of guns. Same thing, that moment when you make that action, playing golf, same thing.
Yeah.
When you're looking at that silly, stupid golf ball, it's the same thing. It's that muscle memory. It's a program.
Yeah.
It's a program in your brain. You can either have a good program, a bad program, and if you got a bad program, you got to figure out how to rid yourself of it. And back to the baseball movie,
Yeah.
clear the mechanism,
Yeah.
and start over.
Well, that's how I actually recommend archery to like everybody, not necessarily bow hunting, because I get that hunting is not for everybody. And, but archery, like I enjoy shooting my bow. Like it's fun. I mean, and I'm a gun man. I love firearms. And, so, I mean, I don't believe you can ever have too many, but the best thing with the bow, my ammo is reusable. So and I remember when I started shooting at first and I started getting good, I'd hit my arrow. And the first time I did it, I thought it was cool where you stick an arrow into another one. They call it Robin Hood and an arrow. And I was like, man, this is cool. And then you shoot again and then you do it again. And you break those arrows every time you do that. And for like six arrows is like $80. So I mean, it ain't cheap.
Yeah.
And so then after you're like, okay, I've Robin Hooded an arrow. I don't want to do it anymore. Like,
Right. I need to move my target.
Yes.
Or not be lazy and walk down there and take it out.
yes,
Yeah.
or like shooting, because it's everybody wants to shoot the tight group. Like, it looks cool, man. You got the arrows just piled up on each other. But when you get to a point, it's like, okay, I got to start shooting different targets because, I'm just ruining it. But it is a archery. Like I think that it travels into a lot of aspects of life because it's a discipline, and man. So
I have not really done it. Like I say, I read that book because I found it to be useful for racing. My buddy J.C. Metters, who you know very well, he kind of got deep off into it for a little while, and he handed me the bow, and I'm pretty strong for a little guy. I mean, I don't have I hadn't figured out how to pull them back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just does it so simply, and it's a art to that.
Yeah.
A compound bow is not so it's something I hadn't figured out yet.
Yeah,
The few
'cause
times I tried it.
you'll see guys that are like big guys, and I mean mine is set around 73-pound draw, and I mean you'll see big guys and it's awkward, like they can't figure it out, and but then there's guys, I mean, like Cameron Haynes. Now, this dude works out a bunch, but he draws a 90-pound bow, and he's not a big guy.
Right.
So, I mean, you learn it, and whatever muscle that it does in particular, it gets worked out. It gets strong. But I don't know, man. I do encourage them. Now, what do you read? What's some of your books?
I mean, if you ask me, what have I read a ton of? A lot of it is mental type things. If I'm reading something for fun, man, I kind of cover the bases. Right now, I'm reading a dog book, and it's just a fun book.
Yeah.
And I need to hurry up and finish it, but I drove to the last race when I hop on the airplane. I read a series of books about and you're not old enough to remember the Rockford Files.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
The show that used to come
Rockford, on. Yep, Rockford Files. Well, I compared this series of books. It was a lady detective. Her name was Stephanie Plum, and I can't remember the series, but Stephanie Plum was essentially a female Jim Rockford.
Okay.
Constantly screwed up, but somehow come out on the other end correctly. But I've read. Man, I don't know. I cover a lot of stuff. It's kind of like YouTube and thumbnails. If the cover catches me,
you,
I'll read it. But I do like a lot of the mental stuff. I kind of got started on that. There's a race car driver named Tommy Kendall. He's one of what I consider one of the greatest road racers of all time.
Yeah,
he ended up getting injured. Is the reason that. He is worldwide known, but he's the reason you don't know who he is.
Yeah.
He was on that path to be, a
Big
Jeff
time,
Gordon, a Dale Earnhardt, you name it. He was on that path. Won more SCCA Trans Am races than anybody ever. Had a wreck, broke both ankles, and road racers need their ankles.
Yeah.
He still drives, and he does some television shows, this, that, and other. But I had the opportunity to hang out with him at a race in Pomona, California, and so I immediately hopped on him when I got the opportunity by ourselves. Like, man, what do you read? What do you do prepare mentally, and that sort of thing. And so he gave me a couple books to read, and one, people, excuse me, people either seem to love it or hate it, but it's called a book called The Power of Now.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
It's to me, it's a must read.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And, I tie everything to race cars, or driving a race car, so that's a book that I think, really, really kind of started me down that path. And, and then I don't even know, there's golf books I've read, I've read Joe Gibbs has had a book out, I've got books that Tracy, my sister, just brought me a Dale Earnhardt Jr. book. It's not a mental book, but, I love reading other successful people.
Yeah.
How do they get to where they're at, so.
Well, that's one of a book, and I've talked about it on here, and it was like the Bible, which I'll listen to audiobooks too. And I've seen, I don't know, some people get offended if you say, yeah, I've read that, but you listen to the book. But I can recall as much from an audiobook as I can from reading a book.
I agree.
And I've seen them where they do I think they've done studies and show that you can recall as much from it.
Yep. And
so I listened and read Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography, Total Recall, because he was my childhood hero.
Oh, yeah.
And he's pretty much still my hero. I'm just going to be honest. But his book, man, I dove into it just because, he's super successful in his life. And I love the fact, even in Austria, he was I'm going to be the greatest bodybuilder of all time.
Yep.
He never, it goes hand in hand with, you're a big dreamer. And I'm a big dreamer. I even starting this podcast, I don't start the podcast and be I hope that it's a small podcast forever.
Right.
It's I don't start anything and aim small. And I think I wish that's how people would be, because Arnold, yourself, any of these people that I see that are what I consider at the upper echelon there, nobody dreams small. And that's one of the big things I took away from Arnold too, is he had these dreams, but he had laser focus on this is what I'm going to do. And like I said, he had the want to. I mean, and he wanted it. There was nothing stopping that guy. And so I loved it. And again, the book is huge. When I bought it, I was it's going to take me a century to read this book, because I don't hardly ever carve the time out.
Right.
Typically, like I said, I'm in a tractor or something, and I could put GPS on and read, but then next thing I'd know, I'd plow into a tree or something.
Right.
So I'm listening, but I was wondering, do you read much I love War of Art. Have you ever read it?
The Art of War.
The Art of War. Well, hold on. No, there's the Art of War, but then there's the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
No,
The Art of War is Sun Tzu.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got it. I haven't read it yet. Have you read it?
I haven't, and I haven't read it either, but okay. I do have it.
Yeah, that was kind of the one I was I have to buy this book just because everybody talks about this book. Yep. Well, The War of Art is really cool.
Yeah, I have not read that.
You need to check it out. Yep. Because Stephen Pressfield kind of writes, and it's all kind of mind, it falls in, there's one Mastery by Robert Greene. And it's all I like the kind of, you say, the mental mastery kind of things.
Absolutely.
But Jack Carr is what I was going to say. He's not, I don't know if you enjoy much fiction.
I do. Say, I was just talking about the Stephanie Plum thing.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jack Carr is action-packed, and it's actually about James Reese. He created Jack Carr. I've had him on the podcast, and he was a Navy SEAL, and then his book is about James Reese, who was a Navy SEAL. And it's actually on the 4th book. I just finished it, but they're making an Amazon series about it, and Chris Pratt's going to play the lead. But it's awesome. They're bad to the bone books. The Terminal List is the first one. But I don't say if you read much, I recommend those to everybody. Now, they're hardcore, which you like Tarantino.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about the hardcore factor with you.
The difference is that's real situations, that they know about. The SEALs have been there and seen that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I do. I probably should audiobook a little more than I do. You know, before we started tonight, I told you I podcast out driving up and down the road. You know, I just wear them out while we're riding, or in my case, driving. But yeah, the audiobook thing, I've done a few, but I probably should do more.
Man, I love them. I got an Audible account, and you get like a 1 free credit a month. And I mean, they build up. So like I'll get on there if I'm real busy or something, and I'll have like 3 credits. So then I can go in and, man, I can get a bunch of books.
Right.
And, but I'm weird, kind of like you say, your music's all over the place. My books are all over the place. Yeah. Like Dracula, I have listened to that book like 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. I love old horror stuff.
Every day.
So,
yeah, I'm out on the horror thing. I can't watch scary movies. They give me bad dreams. Donna loves scary movies. She also likes foreign movies where the mouths don't match up.
Really?
Like the martial art movies.
And, so she likes some of the old, does she like Enter the Dragon and stuff like that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good, man.
That's right up her alley. And I just go to a different room when she's got that stuff on. But, you know, I don't know. You know, the book thing, like I say, if it's somebody I know, I love reading them. If it's a cover that catches my eye, I'll read them. The Jack Reacher stuff. That's good.
Okay, you would like Terminal List. If you like Jack Reacher, because this is like the Terminal List is almost like that on steroids.
Yeah. Donna was so mad. She read them first, and then I would read them after she would get through with them. That Tom Cruise played Jack Reacher. She's like, Jack Reacher's is supposed to be 6'5", 250 pounds, and Tom Cruise is smaller than I am.
Yeah.
I weigh 140.
That's what I was going to say. I haven't read them, but I remember seeing a bunch of people were like, Tom Cruise is like the polar opposite of Jack Reacher. Yeah. Was that Jack Reacher? Was that a Tom Clancy?
I think it is.
I was thinking.
I think it is. I do believe it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I remember seeing.
I do like those movies, though. I don't care. I like Tom Cruise movies.
I watched the first one, and I mean, he plays a good action character.
He does.
He's a weird dude.
He is, and he does a lot of his own stuff. I think that's really cool. And he goes all in, no doubt about it.
He does. Yeah, he does. Which, I mean, like I said, I've liked, I love Mission Impossible, like all the old stuff, and I don't know. I still like the over the top action films.
Who can't like Top Gun?
Yeah. Oh, I know. And have you seen? Is the second one out yet?
I don't know if it's out. It's bound to be, but I hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I hadn't either. And I'm curious to see, because Val Kilmer, he had real bad throat cancer or something, but he's in
issues,
it.
I think. Too.
Yeah. And he's going to be in it. See, I don't even know that he has to talk with like one of them things on his throat now.
Oh, really?
I think. Yeah, like
wow.
I'm pretty sure I watched an interview with him, and he can barely talk.
I'll be dang.
Huh. But and Tom Cruise looks exactly the same.
Yeah, he hadn't changed.
That dude doesn't age.
He doesn't. Kind of like Rambo.
Yeah. Arnold Stallone, I think the steroids have not helps hold him there.
Yeah, all in place.
He's like 70 something and a gorilla.
He is. And I mean, I can't remember what the last Rambo movie was, but he was freaking ripped up.
Oh yeah, he's still a monster.
Yeah.
So we got on that, which again, that's kind of what I like on this podcast. Man, there's no rabbit hole we won't go down. But so now you're in NHRA. How long have you been in NHRA?
I mean, full time. Well, again, I had some partial seasons from just lack of sponsorship and what have you, but my last season in IHRA was 2006. I did one race in 2007, which, man, all this stuff makes me tell stories. So I knew at the end of 2006, going into the last race, I knew I had the championship won. And I also knew I was at 49 wins. Well, there's something, 49 wins is a butt ton.
Yeah.
But there's something about the number 50. So I so badly wanted to win that last race.
Yeah.
And we not only won it, we set the quickest elapsed time record ever. We won the race, number 50. Boom. I knew I'm going to do NHRA the following year.
Yeah.
But sponsorship come up that I needed to go do one IHRA race. And then, it was like almost worse than trying to win number 50 because it's like I'm making one appearance in the middle of the season. And if I don't win it, it's like, oh, man. So I actually won it. So I've, number 51, which, okay.
Well, you still got the 50.
I got the 50. That was a big deal. But so that was 2007 was the first NHRA season. 2008 was when we did the rat car.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. I got a funny story.
I remember the rat car now that you say that.
Which rat kind of took back off again, the Geico commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
That song, I can't even think of what song it was at the moment, but I'm still friends with Stephen Piercy, the lead singer of the band. But that song took back off up the charts from the Geico commercial, which is crazy to think.
What is it? It's not round. That wasn't the round song.
Round, no. Oh, man. Oh, well, I'll think of it here in a moment.
We'll remember.
But I got to tell a funny story. So 2008, I'm going to say my son Kale was, 12, 13 years old, whatever. And Rat was doing a tour with Poison, which is actually what we were promoting on the car. Was they were doing this whole
big tour,
Rat Poison tour. Rat Poison.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So they played the amphitheater down in South Haven.
Yeah.
So I was off that weekend. They're like, "Man, you got to come," and I'm like, "Can I bring my kid?" And Donna, again, she's like, "I don't care nothing about it. You go." So my sister Tracy and Kale. We go, and I'm telling Kale, like, look, we're going to go eat with these guys before the show, and then after the show, we're going to the tour bus. Just kind of roll with it. Stay close to Daddy. I don't have a clue what we're going to see. I don't know.
Yeah, these are rock stars.
Yeah,
no
these
telling.
are freaking rock stars from the 80s, so they all got, history for being wild.
Yes.
So we go backstage. This is an hour or so before the shows, or probably longer, before the show was supposed to start. I get a hug from Brett Michaels, which I had never met before in my life. But
was he with Poison?
Poison.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He hugs me, and he's like, I'm kind of caught off guard by that a little bit. I'm like, I don't know him. How does he know me? Well, because we had it on the car, and this was partway through the summer, they had been keeping up with everything. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. We got to sit down and eat with, Rat and Poison. We had barbecue. Naturally, they're in Memphis.
Yeah. Where'd y'all take them?
No, this was all backstage.
I got you.
In the green room.
I got you.
I don't know if Corky's or somebody brought in the barbecue.
Yeah.
Interstate or whoever, one of the big Memphis barbecue brought in the food. And so we get to watch the show from the soundboard, which is awesome because you are dead center. You've got premium viewing where they do the lighting and the sound.
Yeah.
So that was
I bet their soundboard is insane.
It is huge. I'm looking at your soundboard, and it's probably the size of your table. The soundboard was. So they finish up. So we make our way to the bus, and I remind Kale, like, again, just sit here tight with Daddy. Whatever you see, don't pay attention. I don't know what we're going to see. Go on the tour bus and sit down, and they're all, hanging out, and I'm looking around, and one or two guys might be drinking a beer. Most everybody else is drinking water, and they're asking me 9 million questions about driving the race car, what it's like. This, goes on 15, 20 minutes, and I look at Stephen Piercy. I said, man, this is not exactly what I thought would be going on this tour bus. And he's like, dude, you should have been here in the 80s. It was so funny. He's like, dude, you should have been here in the 80s. Now they're all grown men, and
they're like, that ship sailed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I watched the movie Dirt. Yeah. About Motley Crue, so that's what I'm like playing in my head. I'm like, man, what are y'all walking into?
Yeah, I'm thinking razor blades on the table.
Yeah,
it was none of that. Like I say, it might have been 1 or 2 beers drank. That was it.
You had that Pulp Fiction scene playing in your head.
Yes, exactly. And going home, Kale's like, man, this concert thing's kind of fun. I might do this again. I'm like, you'll never get to this opportunity ever again.
Yeah, not like that.
Not like that.
No, yeah.
So he's ruined.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And that's one of the things, like, we were talking about before, one of the cool parts with doing something like what you do is the wild people that you've met.
Oh man, I've been so blessed and lucky to, I've done so many things that is never ever would have thought possible. I mean, I've traveled the world.
Yeah.
Literally, I've been all over the world, because of driving a freaking race car.
Yeah, y'all did a military tour, didn't you?
I did. In 2008, I went to Iraq, which was life-changing. Absolute 100%. I mean, we're 2 hours, 14 minutes. I could spend another 2 hours just stories.
Yeah.
So 2008, I had lost my deal. I had convinced Donna to quit her job and go to work for the race team in probably December or January, whatever. We've got like this awesome sponsorship going. We're rolling. I mean, things are just freaking kicking.
Yeah.
With the rat thing the following year. So rat actually, I guess, was 2007. Again, I told you I'm horrible with dates.
Yeah.
Horrible. But we get a phone call that, hey, we're done. Shop's going to be closed. We're done.
No warning, nothing.
No, nothing. Whole nother story there. So I'm like, man, oh man, it's getting close to race season. I'm scrambling. Well, I get a phone call with the opportunity to go on it's called MWR.
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing as the USO Tour, Mankind Welfare Recreation.
Yeah.
Recreation. To go to Iraq. And I tell them, I'm like, man, that's kind of scary. I mean, because this still, like, it's war
going on. Yeah, I was going to say, 08, that's still, it's hot and heavy.
It's hot and heavy. It's war going on. And so I tell them, I'm like, yes, I'm a country boy, but I really don't want to, like, sleep in a tent. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know about this. And they're like, oh, you'll get to stay in one of Saddam's palaces. That's where you'll stay every night if possible.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll have to think about it. Me and Donna talked about it. I'm like, I got to do this. I love this country and I love the people protecting us. And so it turns out it was me, Erica Enders, pro stock lady, bad to the bone racer, Jeremy Mayfield, NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
And a guy named Phil Burkhart who drove for John Force at the time. So we go fly to Kuwait, got on an actual military transport, full Army gear, just like all those guys.
Oh, they made y'all dress up in it? Like vests and everything kind of thing?
We had vest. We had our street clothes on, but we had vest and a helmet.
Yeah.
And on the military transport flying into Baghdad, we were told to sit on our vest because of people shooting, we're on a big old C-130 or whatever, sitting on a cargo net. I mean, we're with soldiers. And,
that's wild.
we get there and, you hear stuff going on. And I'm not saying it's like right there by us, but you hear gunshots, you hear stuff blowing up. And they take us to this palace. And it's a palace. It really is. But there's this beautiful lake. And on the other side is a really big palace. So we're staying in this small palace, so that it's gaudy. It looks better in photos than what it really is in
like
reality.
Gold, everything.
Yeah. And it's just cheesy, to be honest with you. In photos, it looks like wow, but really and truly is. So anyway, there's a lady in charge of our group. She's our boss, and she's with the MWR tour.
Yeah.
And so she takes us in, points to a room, said, that's y'all's room over there. And her and Erica have a room, down the hall or whatever. So I thought, okay, this ain't going to be too bad. It'll be me, Mayfield, and Phil Burkhart in this room.
Yeah.
Open the door, and it is literally a big room with cots all the way around it. Cots in the middle. I'm like, okay, we'll be okay. So as it turns out, there was another tour going on, and I drawing a blank of this guy's name, the guy that was the liquid guy on Terminator. Also Dennis Aber, the big guy that does the Allstate commercials.
Yeah.
So they were there on a tour, and they were also staying in that room.
Crap, you got me. I know the guy you're talking about.
The Unit was the name of the TV show they were on at the time.
Yeah.
I remember that, and I can't think of his name, but so
So y'all got they gave them the great stuff and they bumped y'all to the other?
Well, we were all in that same room together.
Oh, they were in there with you.
They were in there at the same time. Yep.
Yeah.
They were on a different tour, so we weren't like going to the camps and bases to see the soldiers together.
Yeah.
But at night, that's where we would come back to.
Oh, man, that's cool.
So that sounds really cool. And so I immediately, I found a cot kind of in a corner and piled my stuff on the cot there. And well, Mayfield, he is such a cool dude.
Yeah.
All the trouble and things that went on, this happened pretty much immediately after this tour. That's a different story too. But so anyway, I got multiple stories about the first night, but I'm going to finish the Dennis Hebert story. So we go to sleep that night. I wake up in the morning. I look over, and Mayfield is fully dressed, and he's got toilet paper sticking out of his ears. Him and Dennis Hebert were head-to-head when they went to bed.
Yeah.
And that guy has that deep voice, and he's got a snore to go along with it.
That's what you had me figuring.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. But Mayfield said he didn't get no sleep. He just got up, got dressed, put toilet paper down. And when I looked over there, his feet was now towards the other end of the bed.
Moved.
Yeah, he had moved.
Oh, man.
Crazy. But the first night there, though, I kind of skipped over this, but the first night there, they told us you'll be able to call home every night if at all possible. You'll be able to call home. Part of this palace was blown up.
Yeah.
It was destroyed on one end, the roof falling in, whatever. But they had a wooden table with plywood separating probably 3 or 4 telephones so that you could lean in and have a little privacy. Just trying to describe this for everybody listening. So a soldier, I didn't know how to call home. You had to dial some international code, whatever.
Yeah.
And so a soldier figured it out or showed me how to do it. So I'm on the phone with Donna and I'm leaned in. Like I'm literally leaned in inside my little plywood box.
Yeah.
And I'm telling her about the flight and all, whatever, all of the stuff getting there. There is an explosion that literally made dirt fall out of the ceiling of this palace.
Oh, man.
So I go from this leaned over position to almost flipping myself out of the chair. I sat straight up. And there's a soldier beside me who's leaned over on the phone, and I hate that y'all can't see this, so he's leaned over and he casually leans back, looks at me, and shakes his head and leans back forward.
Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about. It scared me to death. I was like, wow, I can't believe this.
That's just normal.
And he knew.
Yeah.
The way it felt, the way it sounded, whatever. It was like, just casually looked at me, shook his head, and leaned right back forward.
No worries.
No worries. But it was 100% life-changing experience to see how many young people are really the ones doing this. How the news media does not tell us the truth.
Yeah.
I did not run into a single person that said, I wish I wasn't here. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And I'm not saying they're not there, but I've met, I don't know how many, I don't want to say thousands. I met hundreds of soldiers, hundreds of them. And they were all excited we were there because they wanted that connection to home, but yet they were also excited to tell us about their job. And I don't necessarily mean like fighting and shooting. I met mechanics. I met, IT people. I met actual, guys that were out fighting. I met plenty of those too. But, and I did not, you kind of go into that, I think, probably disliking Iraqi people or whatever, and they're not all bad people.
Yeah.
They're not.
From your perspective, did they look like they hated America?
They wanted us there.
Okay. That's what I thought.
The people there 100% wanted us there. So I just told you there was a large palace and a beautiful lake and the small palace.
Yeah.
So the small palace, I'm going to tell this before I tell the rest of it. The small palace was for Saddam's harem. That's
Okay.
what it was for.
Yeah.
But the lake was beautiful, and it had fish in it. I had never seen some crazy-looking fish like was in it, but they had fish in it. And so I asked, I'm like, man, how do they have this lake, this beautiful big old lake in the middle? Well, during a drought, Saddam wanted this lake. He diverted the Euphrates River to form this lake and absolutely starved
For his lake.
and starved tens of thousands and thousands of people is what I was told.
Yeah.
But we didn't go I think we did 19 camps, outposts, and I think I was there 12 days. We went from daylight to dark. It was a get with it program.
Yeah.
They got you there, and you don't want to sit around anyway. You're not, it's not like you can watch TV. So
Yeah.
so they keep you hopping from daylight to dark. And everywhere we went was by helicopter, because one of the most dangerous things is roadside bombs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Roadside bombs. So when you were flying, you would see Iraqi people come out with American flags, and they would look up and wave flags, and we saw that.
Not the like burning flags kind of thing that we get kind of portrayed to us.
Yep. Nope. I know that happens there, but there was also bad people there. But I'm saying there was also lots of good people there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't watch the news. I didn't before I went, and I still don't. But back then, newspapers. You'd see the newspaper, and it's like, man, you're not hearing all this stuff.
Yeah.
You're not hearing the good things that are going on, and I don't know. It was definitely life changing. I got the opportunity to see things that nobody else gets to see. This weekend, I was really busy working on the race car. A guy kept hollering my name at the racetrack, just kept on and on and on. And I held my finger up like, give me a minute. I actually was filming something for Walmart's what I was doing. I wasn't working on the race car. I'm like, let me finish this,
Yeah.
But he was so persistent. And finally, I just stopped him, and I waved him over. It was a guy I met in Iraq in 2008.
Really? One of the soldiers?
Yep, one of the soldiers.
That's awesome.
Yep. And that was kind of cool. But,
Yeah.
the amount of equipment, the amount of people there's no describing that.
Yeah.
All I know is me and you grew up near what was at one point the world's largest inland naval base. So we grew up around a lot of military people, and I considered myself patriotic until I saw that. And I'm like, that's a whole different level to sign up.
And put your name on,
Put your name on it and go live it.
Yeah. Yep.
My respect for the military people is higher than it ever was, and I thought it was already couldn't got any higher than what it was before I went and saw that.
Yeah, man, that's one thing. I've had a lot of military guys on here, and that's how I am. I mean, which I've never been over and seen that, but just from the stories that these guys have told me, I mean, I had one guy on, and he would talk about, because everybody wants the troops home. We want our troops home, and but I've heard people that are like, we need to just worry about us and just not try to be the world police. And I mean, that sounds great in theory, but I talked to, one of the SEALs that I've had several on now, and they're like, man, if somebody has to stop evil, and he's like, the guys over there, one of the dudes told me that they would go in the ISIS or Al Qaeda, whatever, because it's always a new one that sprouts up.
Yep.
And he said they'll go in, and like a guy that's not a bad guy, but they'll go in and they'll actually be like, if you don't do this, if you don't do what we're telling you to do, then we're going to kill your kids and your wife, and we're going to kill them in front of you. And he said we would see it. He said we'd be like patrolling, and he said you would actually see their heads outside their homes, like it would just be heads stacked up at this house.
Wow. And
he said they did that so that the neighbors that weren't like that would see that and say, well, good God, I don't want that to happen to me.
I got to do what they want.
Yeah. And so it's like the guy, I think it was JP that I had on, he was in Fallujah or Ramadi, in like the worst. It was back, did you ever see American Sniper?
Yeah.
All right, he was in the platoon with Chris Kyle, and him and Jocko was his commander. I'm a big Jocko Willink fan, but they were in the baddest of the bad, and I think they were like the first SEAL team that lost a SEAL. But That's what he said. He said, man, they would stack the heads up to be like a symbol to the rest of the people, like, you're going to do what we tell you to do.
Yeah.
And so he was like, if we don't step up, then nobody will. So, it's tough. I mean, I get it. Like, yeah, you want to, let's not be being the world police, but on the same hand, it's like somebody has to stop evil.
And we don't want them here.
Yeah. And that was a big thing that they said, like Bill Rapier that I had on, he was like, if we don't keep them at bay there, they will come here.
I like I say, I've got so many stories about it. The very first base we went to was, it was downtown Baghdad. They flew us in, and it was a mall.
Yeah.
Kind of like a mall like we have here. It really was. It was multiple stories, open in the center, like a typical mall.
Yeah.
Now, there was no stores in there. This had become, a base for our soldiers.
Yeah.
And so they were, carrying us around. The soldiers were showing us how they had built bunks in some of the stores, and they were pretty cool, and they were proud of, like, man, check out, this is our store, which is that was their house, But we made our way to meet the guy that was in charge. I'm not a military guy, so I don't want to say he was the captain, whatever, but the guy that was in charge.
Yeah.
And we had saw, when we got there, all of these essentially blimps that were tied off. They're way up in the air, and they're stationary cameras that they're
just monitoring all the time.
And so we go in this room, in this mall, and there's a bunch of television monitors, and they're focused in on one area. And I'm like, what are y'all looking at there? And it was Salter City.
Okay.
It's part of Baghdad, really. You couldn't tell from, it's like Memphis and Bartlett, or, think of your big city, it's all connected, but the majority of these TVs were focused on this Salter City.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why are you watching? What are we looking at? Why are we watching that? And he said, well, that's where the bad guys are. And I'm like, well, how come we don't just run over there and run through there? And he said, you from the South, I can tell by the way you talk. I'm like, yes, sir. And he said, you probably have stumbled over a rat's nest at some point, hadn't you? And I said, oh, yeah. And he's like, well, what happens? I'm like, man, they freaks them out, and they kind of just go scrambling. He's like, if we went over there blasting like you're talking, he said, there's a bunch of rats in there, but we have them contained in that area. And that's what we're doing. We're watching. I'm like, well, but what's the end of that? You know? And he's like, well, every day, a couple times a day, 1 or 2 rats come out, and they don't go back.
Yeah. And
he said, so just think about that. And I'm like, that is one of the smartest things I've ever heard. They contained, he called it, containing the rats. And if they knew who they were, they knew what they looked like. And he said, if we scattered them, if we went in like you're talking about and scattered them, every one of those rats are now going to become a head rat somewhere else.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it was amazing, and that they're just sitting there watching. And
it ain't like, it's not what people imagine as war. Because that's what I worked with a guy that was a Marine. He had actually been blown up by an IED, and he had been medically discharged. And that was exactly what he said. He was like, going in, because I told him, I said, I've always had a lot of regret for never serving in the military. And he told me, he said, man, it's not what you envision. He said, in your head, you're like, man, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to just kick some butt. I'm going to just go over here and he said, but these guys, he said, they don't fight. Like, he said, you envision a gunfight. He said, we had gunfights and firefights all the time. He said, but these guys, they hide. He said, he said, what they do is they wait in the corner, and when you come around the corner, they shoot you in the back. And he said, or they blow you up in the street. Like he said, it's not like you say what you imagine going in and just, we're going to fight the bad guy. Yeah. Like it's not just that cut and dry, I guess, or that simple.
It's not a movie.
No. And so I think people would benefit from knowing kind of the real side of things.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing. And again, I've not served in the military, but having seen what they do, what they have to do, how they have to live to take care of us, we can't thank those people enough.
No. Yeah. No. And there's some awesome things like the Special Forces Foundation stuff. I'm glad to see that have kind of come out of it that are, giving back and doing things like that. But yeah, man, I mean, that's, I don't know, veterans, and I can listen to them all day. I mean, that's why I've had so many SEALs and stuff on, because I mean, their stories are crazy. Because I'm in Tennessee here. It's not like it's a war zone outside my home. So I mean, I don't know what that's like, but man, what? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it was amazing to see that and watch. I mean, one night, one day we flew for a long ways to a. It was actually at one point was a schoolhouse, and they had a sandstorm, which I had never seen.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a Tennessee boy too.
Yeah.
Had never seen anything like that, so they couldn't come and get us.
Yeah.
To take us back to the palace, So they said, you're going to probably have to stay here tonight. Okay, so we spent hours with basically every soldier there, because it was not a very big place. It was a very small schoolhouse that had become a camp.
Yeah.
And so eventually they let us go shoot guns. Man,
y'all got to shoot their stuff?
Oh, man, we shot guns and the soldiers were having fun. It was actually a couple of National Guard kids. I'm going to call them kids because they were kids. They were from Arkansas.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, this is awesome because we never get to shoot this much ammo. We got the only thing we didn't get to shoot was a 50 cal.
Yeah.
They had them.
Yeah.
and we're shooting into this sand bank, which was an area they didn't just do this for us. It was for target practice or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we can't shoot a 50 cal. They said no because it can
ricochet off there.
Well, they said it could just go through our sandbank.
Oh, yeah.
And if it hit something, they'd have to pay for it. The government would.
Yeah.
So anyway, I spent hours with these kids from Arkansas. And that night, me and Mayfield, like, okay, it's time to call home, And so they had the phones at this place in a separate little building. And I see these two guys, it's lights out. There's no lights on at all outside. Yeah. There's no lights. And so we're kind of stumbling our way, and we see two kids with little red lights on their helmets, and they're chest bumping like football players, and we like, what are they doing, and they chest bumped a couple times, and we kind of got over there by them, and it was these two kids from Arkansas, and I'm like, what are y'all doing? They said, we're going out. I'm like, what do you mean you're going out? We're going out. I'm like, you're leaving the camp. They said, yep, we got work to do. And they were fired up about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah.
And it just freaking hit me right in the heart. Like, holy crap, these two young guys could be my kids, are literally leaving out to go do whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
I didn't ask, and they probably wouldn't have told me if I did, but
yeah,
it just like, wow, these kids are about to leave what felt like a little bit of a safety area.
Yeah.
Although we're just protected by chain link fence around it, it's really
yeah.
tall, but yeah, it's like two young
could
kids.
Potentially not come back.
Yeah. And they were fired up about it.
Yeah.
They were like I say, chest bumping and high fiving. It was.
Oh, the guys that are SEALs, they like, one of the dudes told me that when he joined, it was kind of a peacetime, and he said they hated it. He was like, man, all of us were always so scared that we would not get to go overseas. He said, he said, especially like special ops. He said, you don't join the SEALs or like Green Berets or Rangers not wanting to go fight. He was like, those guys, he said, man, we're all like, we can't wait for something to happen so we can go to war. But so yeah, it's that warrior mentality.
Oh yeah. And I mean, we kind of slid down this rabbit hole talking about, all the traveling. I went to, I did that. And again, that was such an incredible life-changing deal. And then a couple years ago, I got invited to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I had all these, television, movies, whatever, preconceptions of what that would be like, a little hesitancy about going to that. And I'm going to essentially a high-end car show, more or less, like a SEMA show.
Yeah.
First time that they've ever had a SEMA show, and SEMA show is basically the largest car show in the world.
Yeah.
Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association in Vegas. And I went with a guy named David Freiberger, super well known, hosts a car show called Roadkill. He's freaking famous. And, we got all of these Google info, don't look anybody in the eye, and same kind of deal, first day, a little hesitant, and by the end of it, I'd go back.
Yeah.
We get a lot of information that ain't always true.
Oh yeah. Well, you said something earlier that you don't watch the news
At all.
I had to quit watching the news.
It's horrible.
It is, man. If you just watched it, you're like, what a terrible world we live in.
Yeah.
And then you just talk to people, and it's like, well, it doesn't sound that bad when you actually talk to people. I mean, there's stuff going on, but I don't know. What's next for you?
I'm home this weekend. The following weekend, we will head to Charlotte for a twice-a-year event. We just finished one where we actually race 4-wide.
Okay.
It's wild. It's crazy. 4 top fuel cars going down the racetrack at one time. Most of the drivers don't seem to like it, and there's things that I do like and dislike about it, but for whatever reason, I always seem to do good at them.
Yeah.
Like, we just did one probably a month ago in Las Vegas. I went to the final round, and I finished third. It's weird to say you finish third in a drag race. In a drag
Yeah.
race, it's normally 2 vehicles.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, and then we'll leave there, go straight to Houston, and the season is starting to really get going.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we will have already been knee-deep in it by now. Last year was, obviously a struggle for the entire world, and we normally do 24 races. We did 11.
Dang. Wow.
And
yeah.
That's rough for a guy that pays his bills racing cars.
Yeah.
It was weird, and but it seems to be getting better. And this is certainly controversial, and I don't know why people get so wound up about it, but my opinion, everybody's got one. I think the more people get vaccinated, the better things will get, and I've posted about that. I've gotten tore up on social media, but I started working with Walmart on that very thing. They actually they brought out a mobile, essentially a hospital, a clinic to the race this past weekend. They gave out a lot of vaccinations, but what I'm seeing is more and more people are coming to events, which is good. And the state dictates how many, what percentage is allowed. But let me tell you, for a guy that loves being outside, I know you do. I love being around big crowds. I know you like being in the tree stand chasing after the deer. But, the sooner we can kind of contain what's going on with this thing, is it going away? Probably not, but we got to be able to contain it. And, it's not like we're being forced to do this. It was my choice to do it, and it's my choice to help people, maybe think about getting the vaccination. People forever have gotten flu vaccinations. I don't know what the difference is.
Well, that's my thing, honestly. Like I'm a young, and with my age, and I'll exercise. Like I am at extremely low risk.
Absolutely.
And my whole thing is, honestly, I don't understand the anger over it, because I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if somebody, like I'm not vaccinated, but I'm not a high risk.
I bet you when I posted my vaccination card, you didn't go on there and call me bad names.
I didn't. And if it don't matter who I see do that, that's what I actually, just the other day, I made a video, and it was about a guy put up a thing that he had made. It was a tow hook. He had fabricated this tow hook, and it was like this intricately cut out piece of metal, and it was 2 pieces like welded together. And it wasn't something I would really want, but I saw it and I was like, well, that's interesting, but I don't want it. And so I was just going to scroll past it. And like, as I was scrolling by it, I saw some of the comments. people were trashing him, like talking about how what a piece of crap and all this stuff. And I was like, man, people are awful. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody wants to get vaccinated, then get vaccinated. If
Yes.
somebody doesn't want to get vaccinated, then just don't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
I don't hate you for either way. Like, it doesn't.
Right.
I am a freedom kind of guy.
Me too.
Like,
Me
if
too.
you live your life, and I'm not gonna force my stuff on you, and that's, I don't know. And like I said, yeah, I'm sure people, especially social media,
It's crazy.
there's been plenty of cool things that have happened because of it for me, but then the downside is how it is so easy to be awful to somebody else online.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. But for me, that was, while I got a lot of bad things said, for me, I've got a little bit of platform that, hey, I got vaccinated.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I'm around a lot of people, and I did it because I am around a lot of people, and I don't want to get my family sick and my friends and whatever, and it's like I say, I got the platform to talk about it, and shoot, I am.
Well,
hey,
it's your platform.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that Walmart's like, hey, we want to come out to the races and do it, and they gave out a lot of vaccinations at the racetrack. In probably a crowd that was some of the ones that said bad stuff about me on social media.
Yeah. Well, they would not say it to your face. That's what, like, probably, honestly, the people that, I mean, even when I've said a bunch of times when I started the podcast, I had some people talking some crap, but they never said it to me in person.
Right.
And I'm always like, at least have the gonads to say it to me in person.
Right.
Let's close with, is there any one moment in the whole span of your life and everything that stands out as one of the most memorable moments? I know that's a hard question.
Well, I mean, to be honest, first thing pops to mind for me is, which we didn't talk about it, and you probably avoided it on purpose because you know me, whatever, but I'm going to a good memory, not a bad memory. So, in 2015, we lost Dalton in an accident. And we've been talking about all these championships, all these wins, all these things that I had done in a top fuel car. And when I moved to NHRA, I just could not win.
Yeah.
I'd make the final round, didn't matter. I could get to the final, but I wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
And on Bristol Dragway is always raced non-COVID years. We're there on Father's Day.
Yeah.
And they do an amazing job of taking the drivers and do something with them out in front of the fans, all this stuff for Father's Day. Well, after we lost Dalton, I snuck out.
Yeah.
Father's Day was a bad day. Not a good day for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming up for Donna on Sunday.
Yeah.
When you've lost a child, those are like crappy days.
Yeah.
You just assume zone off on something else. So, at any rate, I had spent 19 years, 250 some races, and never won an NHRA event. It was the longest number of races for anybody to have not won.
Really?
I didn't have the record for runner-ups, but I wasn't far from it.
Yeah.
And on that day, on Father's Day, I had avoided pretty much anything that I could. Text messages, one from Donna right there. Text messages, phone calls. The only phone calls I took, to be honest with you, was from my sisters, mama, whatever, because I knew they knew. Everybody else is being nice. Happy Father's Day. Well, there was no Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew, but they think it's the right thing to do. And I just assumed this is a Sunday race day.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of block it out, and we had won first round of eliminations. It started raining, and so there was a delay. Second round, we finally get going. Maybe we'd won first and second round, doesn't matter. So we're towing the car up. There's still tons of people there. I hear a guy knock on the window of the tow vehicle as we're pulling up, let it down, and he hands me a motocross chest protector So I grabbed the Sharpie, and he's like, no, I don't want you to sign it. I'm giving this to you. And I'm like, okay, you know. Sticks it in the window, and he's like, your kid signed this, said it was the first autograph he's ever signed. And I look at it, sure enough, #25 Dalton Millican.
Yeah.
You know, instant frog in your throat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, man, I'm fixing to go up here and race. And, you know, golly, you know, I did the whole Father's Day thing, you know. I'm like, man. So I think the guy, I mean, I wasn't rude at all, but I had those thoughts for a little bit, you know, big frog in your throat.
Well, it's heavy right before a race there. Yeah,
you know, you're trying to, like, you know, do your thing, go race the car and get up there, and we was a touch late getting there, but I'm racing Steve Torrance. He's now 3-time world champion. They're winning like crazy, and Stevie's already basically in his car. I go over and I'm like, hey, good luck, you know, whatever, and boom, win that round. Like, holy crap. So that it was semifinals. So now we're in the final. Still don't really think nothing about it, but what had happened was, like, I suddenly, it's like everything's all good.
Yeah.
It was weird. You know, it's
kind
like
of peace over you.
Yeah, you know, it's like whoop, a little clarity, you know, everything's all good. Whatever happens, not that big a deal.
Yeah.
You know, what had happened in 2015, huge deal. I'm racing a car for a living, you know, so.
Yeah.
But race Leah Pruitt in the final, and boom, win light comes on. Like, holy crap. You know, it was Father's Day, 19 years, all those runner-ups. Things happen for a reason. We talked about that at some point, I think. I was supposed to have that much struggle, that much want to win for it to mean that much. And what I've always said and what I still believe was that was Dalton's way of telling me it's okay to be all right on Father's Day.
Yeah.
That was my Father's Day present. So for me, you know, we talked about 51 wins, 6 championships. I don't care what I win from that day in Bristol forward. Nothing will ever mean as much as that day did.
Yeah.
The way that happened, the way it worked out, that guy giving me that chest protector, you know, with Dalton's signature on it, on a day that I was trying to avoid anything and everything to do with, you know, not necessarily Dalton, but anything to do with Father's Day.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to even, you know, I didn't want none of it. And the win light comes on, you know, for 19 years, I had mapped out in my head what I was going to say, what I was going to do. When I won one, you know, I had all this stuff. I was going to do this, this, and this, all these things. Absolute none of it come out. Ended up just, you know, absolutely balling like a little baby, you know, and most awesome, memorable day at the racetrack ever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've told this story. You can find this stuff, but I got Dalton's little chain that he wore all the time. I wear it. His number was 25.
Yeah.
And so my car number when I first started drag racing was 2556. When I got my Top Fuel license, it became 255. I was able to drop one number off.
Yeah.
Well, Dalton dropped a number off because he didn't want 3 digits on his motocross stuff. So he was 25. So I win that final round. Finally make my way to the media center. We're doing all the media stuff, and the scoreboard's still up. And I ran 381.25. So
yeah, just not a coincidence.
Yeah. So in Hebrew, there is no such thing as a coincidence.
Yep.
That's
I've said before a bunch, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah. In Hebrew, there is no word for coincidence.
Yep.
Yep. So,
man, yeah, that gave me chills there.
Yeah, it was a big day. I mean, you know, that, like I say, that was meant to be that way. That's the way it was supposed to be, and nothing will top that. You know, I'm not saying I don't have great memories since before, whatever, but that one was special. It was meant to be that way, and that's why it was such a struggle to do it.
Yeah. Well, man, like I say, it's that's I couldn't think of probably a more powerful thing, because I can remember that, because I remember watching that win. I remember watching you afterwards. I mean, heck, all of us were crying with you. I mean, it was know,
it's funny. I get a lot of people that come up and say, "Man, I was watching that on TV and I was crying right along with you," just like you're saying. I'm like, well, at least you were at home. I did it in front of millions of people on TV.
Well,
but I don't care. It was worth it. You know, it's one of those things. I got a little tear up right now, but that was an extremely perfect day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, there's just...
I got to go on with this, though.
Okay.
So my daddy, which we lost a couple years ago, my daddy, one of my biggest fans, obviously, would nobody's going to get where they're at without their daddy. So our rule was always, you cannot call daddy and tell him what happened at the race until it's been on TV, because it hadn't happened until he saw it on TV.
Yeah.
Well, Bristol was delayed on TV for, I don't know, hour or whatever, hour and a half, whatever it was. So Mama, Tracy, and Lee, obviously they knew I won.
Yeah.
The text message, Daddy didn't have a cell phone. He never had a cell phone, and nobody's supposed to call him. So Tracy and Lee and Nathan, my nephew, and Mama were all standing outside Daddy's bedroom Sunday afternoon. Typical Daddy, in his boxers, wasn't under the sheet, nothing, laying in bed on Sunday night, watching the drag race.
Yeah.
They have me on FaceTime. So I was able to watch my daddy watch me win.
Oh, man. Yeah.
As far as he's concerned, that was happening right that moment.
Yeah.
So a couple of really cool things come out of that.
That is.
Yeah.
Man, I bet I don't know how he could hold out. The suspense would be killing me to wait to see it.
Well, think about it. 19 years of NHRA races at that point, I had never won one.
Yeah, I guess he was like, well, he ain't going to win it anyway.
Yeah, he's just riding along.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we have that video. It was FaceTime. We got it. Nathan was filming and Tracy was on FaceTime. So it was really cool. That's an awesome memory. I got to watch him watch me win.
Yeah.
In real time as far as he was concerned.
Yeah. Isn't it kind of interesting how of all the success, like say the victories and wins and championships throughout the year, that like that moment is what stands out. Like I think that's
I mean, if you started picking at me, I can tell you a bunch of other highlights, but that was the top of the top.
That's what comes to your head.
Yeah,
it ain't like it's not like you were like this big sponsorship deal or it's this memorable moment there. Yep, and that's
100%.
Man, that's that's a great one to close on, I think.
I appreciate you letting me come on, and man, I've kept you here for 3 hours. Joe Rogan ain't got nothing on you.
He ain't, man. Joe, we're coming for you, man. Well, where can everybody follow you?
Man, I'm easy. If you can spell my last name, which a lot of people have trouble with, but everything social media, YouTube is just Clay Millican.
Okay. Yeah, 2 L's.
2 L's. 2 I's, 2 L's.
Yep. Awesome, man. And yeah, like I say, you're on YouTube too. Go on there and check him out on YouTube. And everybody, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for coming on. It's been fun.
I forgot about the camera up there.
I know it's going, which like I said, I'll edit that at some point.
That's the first time I'm glad I didn't know the camera was there. I'll run into it with my earpiece.
Yeah. No, my man. Yeah. Thank you. It's been fun.
It has been a blast. Thank you for having me on. And this podcast is just going to keep growing, brother. Just keep working at it.
Oh man, I appreciate it. It's fun. I have a good time doing it. It is.
I loved it. Thank you for letting me come on.
Absolutely. Y'all, thank you for watching, and hope everybody has a blessed day.